Hopefully mine works. Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all here safely today. I ask that you bless the city, its staff and our residents. Please give us wisdom while we make important decisions for our city and its residents. In your name, amen.
Sorry, everyone. Did you get it working? Thank you for fixing that. As it turns out, I was pressing the wrong side to get it going. I'm happy to own that, thank you. Before we begin, I will acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people, and on behalf of the city, pay my respects to their elders, both past, present and emerging. It is now 7:02 and I declare the meeting open. There are no announcements of visitors there. Just read the disclaimer. Members of the public are cautioned against taking any action on council decisions on items in which they may have an interest until such time as they've seen a copy of the minutes of the meeting or have been advised in writing by the city staff. Thank you. Record of attendance. Councillor Adams and Councillor Griffiths have got a leave of absence and Councillor McDonald is joining us online. Other than that, we are all here. Are there any disclosures of interest? No, thank you. Announcements by the presiding member. I've got a couple here. Firstly, on behalf of Council, I'd like to extend our sympathy to the President of the RSL, Mr Fred Flores, on the untimely passing of his wife, Mrs Flores, and we wish their best wishes to their family at this sad time. And the funeral for Mrs Flores is on Tuesday, I believe, so councillors, I'll let you know further details on that. Today, the councillors and I attended the Changes of Places toilet and the bridges opening at Mary Carroll Park to officially open them, and we had a representative from Lottery West along as well, so that was great to finally be able to open those bridges and the Changing Places toilets, so they are now open. On the weekend, Councillor Dewhurst and I attended the farewell for Pastor Clinton Phillips, who's moving south. Pastor Clinton is a former Citizen of the Year, and it was really nice to be able to say bye-bye to him. I'm sure he'll be back, but he's done a great job there at C3, and his work that he started will continue with the leadership that is there now. Also, like to congratulate the staff on the Festival of Football event that was for the women's final in the town centre. That was very well organised, and those that attended definitely enjoyed it, and it was very good to be able to support women's sport by having that final down there. So hopefully we can have a few more events in that space. And also a number of councillors and I attended the event on the weekend organised by the Friends of the Brixton Street Wetlands to witness the launching of their new book, which is Appreciating and Documenting Unique Native Orchids. So that was nice to attend that as well. So that is all from me. Are there any reports from delegates? Councillor Good, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Betts, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Just reporting briefly on the Rivers Regional Council. We had a meeting last Thursday, I think it was, and the things are progressing towards the subsidiary arrangements, but the Armidale Council still needs to formally agree to that, and that's still in process, so we still don't really know exactly when it's going to happen, but the construction is progressing of the waste-to-energy plant, and if my memory serves me correctly, somebody correct me, but 2024 they hope to have the initial testing, firing, and have it operational later in 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Good, thank you.
Thanks very much, Mayor Lyons. Whilst not on the topics I'm going to talk about, I did note that the ABC had a very big story on the waste-to-energy plant from memory on Sunday night. It was a great story for the news, which I happened to record, so I thought it was just terrific. I assume others saw it. If you didn't, have a good look. My particular items are on the 16th of August. I attended the Gosnells District Neighbourhood Watch meeting at Manington Shopping Centre. Again, they do such a great job, the Gosnells District Neighbourhood Watch, encouraging people to participate and be alert to what's happening in their surroundings. A number of topics was discussed, Mayor Lyons, and such as the future events, the number plate recognition, street meet and greets. They want to do, obviously, keep involvement in that. And of course, their AGM is due up in October. Otherwise, it's a very good attended meeting and very constructive. On another matter altogether, the Joint Development Assessment Panel on the 17th of August, Councillor Williamson and I attended that via the Zoom meeting, of course, and there was an approval for a $30 million, so it's quite massive, $30 million warehouse and floor area. The warehouse and floor area is 29,930 square metres. I mean, that's just enormous. I'm trying to compare that to an Optus Stadium, but all I know that's a lot of square meterage. And by the way, the hard stand is 47,515 square metres of hard stand, designed to store sea containers, materials and vehicles. There's 2 modest offices going to be part of it. It's on at Victoria Road, Kenwick, lot 16,988 and lot 25, but more particular, up to 115 employees. So again, another great example of the Mooksy with the development and employees in that area. So it was part of the Joint Development Assessment Panel approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Any further reports from delegates? No, thank you. Question time. The first question is from Ms Catherine Torse from 225A Gibson Avenue, Padbury. The subject is the Mooksy Precincts 2 and 3B. Thank you, Mrs Torse.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors and city staff. I'd just like to ask you if you can think of anything that you've learnt about how to care for the environment in the long time that the City of Gosnells has presided over numerous mistakes and some fairly catastrophic impacts in the Mooksy Precinct 1 and then in the Mooksy Precinct 3A. You've destroyed a lot of hydroplane, that wonderful substance that absorbs rainwater and replenishes our groundwater, and which the biota of the Greater Brisbane Street wetlands thrive on. You've destroyed hectares of cockatoo habitat. Can you please tell me, in as much detail as you can conceptualise, what you've learnt from the process? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. I'll ask the Director for Planning, Mr Chris Terrelink, to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The development in those areas that's occurred to date has occurred as a result of approval by multiple agencies, and the City and the Council's never claimed to be the environmental experts, and we do rely on the independent environmental expertise of the state. So the development has really progressed with minor issues, if any at all, and it's progressed in accordance with the rezoning and approvals and environmental approvals of the state government.
Thank you.
Excuse me, that didn't really answer my question. What have you learnt?
Sorry, your question has been answered to the best of the planners at the moment, so I will ask you to please sit down and I'll ask the next person to come up for their question.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. The next question is from Daniel Jan Martin from UWA on behalf of the Belia Group of Professors for Environmental Responsibility, 35 Stirling Highway, Crawley. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, other elected members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel Jan Martin. I am a lecturer in environmental planning at the University of Western Australia. My question is on behalf of the Belia Group of Professors for Environmental Responsibility, and I'm referring to Town Planning Scheme Number 6 Amendments 166 and 169. Will the City of Gosnells accept their responsibility as custodians of the Greater Brixton Street wetlands, one of the most biodiverse landscapes in Australia? The Belia Group have determined that rezoning in its current form cannot go ahead without the strong likelihood of extreme environmental impacts upon biodiversity, hydrology and landscape connectivity. Will you support the Belia Group's solution, available at www.thebeliagroup.com, but also available in the books and in the vision statements that have been kindly donated by an anonymous member of the community? Will you support this solution that allows development and biodiversity to go together? A solution that protects the Greater Brixton Street wetlands with broad and connected buffers, limiting the proposed industrial area by just 27% and enabling a future Ewellbrook Regional Park for your residents and future generations. On behalf of the Belia Group of esteemed scientists and professors, we respectfully note that the ERD prepared by Emerge is scientifically inadequate. The ERD has failed to respond adequately to the EPA scopes.
Sorry, can I just get your first part of your question answered, and you may be able to incorporate the second part into another question?
Okay.
Just so we don't lose where we're up to, and I'll get, and thank you so much to your anonymous donor for the books over there. Councillors, the books are over to the side there, and there is one for every councillor. But I will ask the Director for Planning to respond to your first part of your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a few parts to that one. Firstly, the starting point really is that the land is predominantly under the care and control of the state government. It's not under care and control of the city. But the council has demonstrated time and time again that it's keenly interested in preserving the environmental values of the wetland. In regard to the Belia Group proposal for the regional park, the council have previously informally said that it would be interested in pursuing options for custodianship of the park in a more formal way. But in regard to the extent of the park that's shown in the documentation, the draft plan isn't consistent with the with the draft rezoning proposal. But that issue is a matter for future consideration of the state government when it determines the outcome of the planning scheme amendment and the environmental review.
Thank you. I don't know if you've had a chance to restructure that next paragraph into a question, but you can if you want to, but it has to be a question.
Sure. It would be to just question the validity of the environmental review document and to make the point that the ERD makes many omissions, fails to disclose impacts and draws many unreasonable conclusions. We understand that there's scientific expertise in the Belia Group which are stating otherwise and contrary to what the ERD has stated.
Ask the Director to respond to that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, those technical issues are the very ones that the EPA and DPLH will tangle with looking at the amendment proposals.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. The next question is from Mrs. Sandra Barriolo from Victoria Road in Kenwick. Mrs. Barriolo.
Good evening, everyone. Obviously, I didn't know these guys were coming tonight, just want to put that out there. Is the City of Gosnells aware of the protected fauna on the properties in Victoria Road, Brentwood Road, Kenwick? It can also be found written on the City of Gosnells intra-mapping and the Maddington-Kenwick Strategic Employment Area documents.
I will get the Director to respond to that, but I'm assuming that since it's been found written on our website that we are aware, but I will... Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a yes.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you. If you are aware that they are protected, why did the City of Gosnells do nothing to stop the desecration that the significant clearing of the land was done without the consent from the City of Gosnells?
Ask the Director again. Thank you, Director.
You.
Not sure if you know which address this is referring to.
All of Victoria Road.
Madam Mayor, I'm not sure which exact properties are being referred to. There's a number of landowners along Victoria Road that our compliance team is dealing with, and Mrs. Barriolo may be referring to one of those, but you're welcome to submit the addresses to us and we'll have a look.
It was just basically to say the desecration of the land, that's it. All of Victoria Road. Thank you. It's been answered. Number 3, has the City of Gosnells done a recent study on the $35,000 that was spent on the intersection of Bickley Road and Victoria Road for the left-hand turn out, as most of the residents advise that the commercial vehicles are in fact turning right to go up Bickley Road to turn right onto Bickley Road to go out onto the Welshpool Road? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask the Director for Infrastructure, Mr Martin Glover, to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. The determination for the repairs to the intersection were based on damage to the pavement, not number of vehicles. A left-turning vehicle out of Victoria Road would be cutting the corner, hence that's why the repairs have been done on that side of the road. And of course, a right-turning vehicle turning right would actually be crossing the pavement and consequently didn't require the widening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Barriolo. The next question is from Mrs Tracy O'Neill from 217 Kenwick Road, Kenwick. Subject is traffic and roads. Did you need this back? Yeah.
Thank you so much. A number of traffic studies were commissioned prior to the commencement of the Mooksea development. Did any of those indicate heavy commercial vehicles would be using residential roads to access that area?
So, Director for Planning to respond to that question. Thank you, Mr Terrelink. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, I have to take that one on notice so that we can have a look at those studies. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
And there are residential areas in Kenwick that are now receiving over 1,200 commercial vehicles passing their houses every day. I'm one of those. Was that indicated in the studies?
I'm imagining you have to take that one on notice as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Mr Ken Ashwin from 40 Forest Crescent in Thornley.
Firstly, my apologies to Deputy Mayor Borto. I saw it at the Lismon Street Activation Hub and I indicated that I'd only ask one question, but I'm going to ask two tonight, Adam. Sorry about that. Question 1. In regard to my question on August 8 regarding the consideration of public statements, submission and petitions to be heard in full so that a contemporaneous record would at least be audibly recorded so that those live streaming the meeting would be viewing those in their entirety, and ratepayers and residents accessing that meeting online at a later time also would. In my view, the answer was not adequately answered, and that question was, I consider, not answered with clarity.
It's not me.
Sorry about that. So in essence, Madam Mayor, was your answer a yes or no to that question?
So I'm just going to have a look at what the question was here in front of me. Which one was it? Yeah. You sure it was that one?
It's question 3 on that paper.
Okay, thank you. It's part of the standing orders to allow 3 minutes, and it is the presiding member's discretion to allow longer, and at times I have done that, but the majority of the time I stick to the 3 minutes, otherwise the message gets lost. So the answer is not a yes or a no, but it is each individual case taken on its merit. Next question.
I'll take that as a no. Question 2. What percentage of ratepayers in the City of Gosnells pay their rates in full prior to the 1st of September?
I'll ask the Director for Business Services to answer your question. We're not at the 1st of September, as you would know, but I will get him to answer the question anyway.
Damn, no phone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know the exact percentage, but I do know that we have a higher percentage of ratepayers who do pay in full by the first payment date than probably other local governments, but I could give you an exact percentage over the last couple of years if you give me a call tomorrow.
Okay, I will do that, Grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bradbrook, and thank you, Mr Ashwin. Moving on to, there are no more questions. We have statement time, so moving on to...
Sorry, I did have a question, just a brief question, but I didn't realise you had to tell people that you wanted to ask a question.
Okay, we normally like to get them in notice for them, but I think I will allow your question. I don't actually know what it is, so
Okay.
I'd be prepared to cut off if it's not what you should be asking,
Thank you.
but carry on, thank you.
It's just a brief question, but firstly, I'd like to thank councillors and city staff for extending the deadline on the MUXI consultation, because I think it's very important that councillors in particular, and certainly the community behind me, want you to have a good look at the environmental implications of this particular proposal. And my question relates to the cost of the emerged documents that have been presented for public consumption. I'm just wondering if the City of Gosnells can tell me, the CEO, perhaps, what the cost of the environmental review has been so far?
Thank you. We will, we'll have to take it on notice because there's quite a bit of data to collect for that. So
all right, thanks very much.
Thank you. Moving on to public statement time. We have a statement from Raphael Branca from 39 Atfield Street, Maddington. Thank you, Mr. Branca. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your time on the phone to most of the councillors and the mayor. I'll just read out the statement that I've presented to the council.
Just for your information, you've got 3 minutes on this one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's probably quicker if I read it than if I
Yep,
start
thank you.
talking, because then I'll get sidetracked.
Yep, thank you very much.
We, the leaseholders of Atfield 39, firstly wish to state that we have no issues with the proposed development of this vacant land, as we believe it is beneficial to the area. And as I say, the land is at 40 Atfield Street in Maddington. We have been the leaseholders for the past 2 years, and my partner is the daughter of the landholder and the original developer of Atfield Tavern in 1987. The family have held this land for the past 36 years, and we're one of the first to bring life to the Maddington Activity Centre. We have been brought in as leasing holders to revive the Atfield, and we are about to submit plans for the redevelopment and upgrade of the Atfield, and intend to invest considerable money so that we can generate life and atmosphere to fill our 400-seat capacity. We will also accommodate the full capacity within our current parking allocation. As outlined in our submission during comment period, we have concerns based on the number of parking bays allocated to this development. We do understand that it may meet relevant schemes, but schemes can be designed to be generic. This development has solely enough parking for patrons and staff of the accommodation units. The remaining patrons of the 1,600 square metres will be required to park either on the verge, possibly crossing concrete pedestrian path, or on the roadside, which is affecting traffic. This, as outlined by Labour lawyers, this will pose a safety issue for the remaining members of the public. As an issue that I believe may have been overlooked in the evaluation of this application, the lack of parking bays with this development will directly affect the trading of Atfield 39 and possible other business in the strip, as patrons from the proposed development will inevitably park in Atfield 39's parking area. This will result in our patrons having to park illegally on roads or verges due to the insufficient parking bays being provided by the proposed development. This could cause aggressive behaviour between patrons and add to our cost as our business to employ parking management to ensure our patrons have availability. Council officers may suggest to use Maddington Central Parking, which is privately owned, but if the shopping centre decides to redevelop the land, who will be responsible for the lack of parking?
Mr. Branco, I see that you've just got a couple more lines, so if you could wrap it up, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
No worries. Shouldn't each development be responsible to cater for adequately parking bays to service their businesses? The proposed development indicates plans for future development with
within the current parcel of land. This should be used to create additional parking for the patrons of this development, and possible use of underground parking could also be introduced to satisfy the lack of parking available to this development. The development should not be granted if it can clearly show to have major effects to other businesses apart from competitive market behaviour. This development clearly shows lack of parking will have an effect on the trading of other businesses in the area.
Thank you, Mr Branker, for your statement. Thank you. There are no further public statements. Thank you. You can have a seat. Thanks. Moving on to the confirmation of the minutes, can I get a mover for that? Councillor Karen Baines and Deputy Mayor Hort to second that. Are there any questions on the minutes? Councillors, if you please cast your vote. Oh, sorry, we're raising our hands, yes. Raising hands, Councillor Good, Councillor Dewhurst. For the minutes, thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to receiving of petitions and presentations. Are there any? No? Got to keep looking at Councillor there. Are there any applications of leave of absence? No, thank you. There are no questions of which due notice has been given. And so we'll move on to item number 13.2.1, the development application for the hotel, restaurant and reception centre at 40 Lot 502 Atfield Street, Maddington. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Dewhurst to move that. A seconder, Deputy Mayor Hort to second that. Councillor Dewhurst.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, this is very, very hard, very difficult decision to make, and I certainly hear the words of the previous speaker. I agree. I agree there's going to be significant parking issues for the outfield, and I'd like to see, really would like to see a way forward how we can address that, and we have discussed it at length in regards to different ways that could happen, but we haven't got to a resolution. So I'd like to hear the voices of the other councillors, because I'm still at odds whether to support this, because we do need this kind of development in Maddington as well. And I'd certainly support the development, and I'm sure that field supports the development as well, but they don't want to be hampered by the additional parking, in which there could be additional, 30 to 50 cars there, as we discussed earlier, so where they park. And so at this stage, I'm still up in the air in regards to which way I'm going to vote for this. Yes, I want the development, but I don't want this to affect the Outfield Tavern.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yeah, just sharing Councillor Dewhurst's frustration and concern. This is not an easy decision to make, and we're all, I'm fairly certain, very, very keen to see Maddington do well. And for so long there have been vacant plots of land right through that activation centre. And finally, we've got an opportunity there for a private investor to move in and make some use of it. So there's a really compelling case for it. And my concern is, by putting constraints around extra parking, that it might actually prevent that development from being financially viable. At the same time, we have a family who have run this, the Atfield Tavern, for a very, very long time. Their patronage has been essential to that part of Maddington for 35 years. And we want to honour their service and their dedication to the community as well. So it is really a very, very difficult decision to make. I guess I have a question before I can properly make my decision. The decision here around parking has been one based on the planning scheme that's specific to the Maddington Town Centre. What if we were to decline this opportunity today for this developer, what chance would we have in the State Administrative Tribunal of being able to justify that?
Thank you for your question. I'll ask Director Terrelink to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the stumbling block on appeal is probably the adopted council policy for parking in both Gosnells and Maddington town centres, which envisages this level of parking provision for a mix of commercial activities, which is exactly kind of the ingredients of this proposal. So it'd be very difficult to defend a different decision that didn't accord with the policy.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, thank you.
So that probably rounds out where I'm sitting at the moment. I have sympathy for the Atfield, and I hope that our city can do everything it possibly can to make sure that the parking arrangements there are safe. and in the best interests of the surrounding businesses. I hope as more and more businesses join this area, and hopefully this is a bit of an anchor tenant, for lack of a better word, or anchor development in this area that will hopefully see the rest flourish, and parking at off-peak periods made available to something like this if it does happen to use extra parking. But I think ultimately I don't think we can say no. I think it's going to end up going through the courts. If the developer is particularly interested in pursuing this, it will cost us an enormous amount of money, and I don't know that it's defendable when we put out a planning scheme saying this is what we're happy with, and then when the developer comes in with that proposal and we say no. So based on that information, I'm thinking out loud here, and I look forward to hearing the other councillors' thoughts. I'm in support of this proposal. I don't want to see us scaring away business and development from Maddington. It's happened for too long, and I don't want to see it happen again here tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Betts, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to echo what Deputy Mayor Adam Hort just said. We don't want to scare away a new development out of that area. It desperately needs development, so 100% supportive of that. But there's a hotel with 59 rooms and a resident place, or a manager's residence. Even if only half of the people who occupy a hotel room of a night time bring their own car, that's say 25 cars. We have 2 restaurants and a reception centre. If the reception centre has nothing happening, then perhaps we could get by with 2 restaurants operating. But my concern is that if we have 2 restaurants operating in the evening, as well as a function at the reception centre, that is going to be chaos. It's just simply not going to work unless there is sufficient alternative parking. At the moment, the Maddington Centro Shopping Centre has a lot of spare parking, and of an evening that should be available. But of course that is private property, which at some point the owners may well develop some of that because they have surplus car parking. If that car park were to disappear, or not be available, then this development would be struggling to have enough parking. There are other businesses around there where people probably could occupy their parking bays, and that happens in commercial areas, that if a business is closed, people park there for evening events, and that's all well and good. But I'm just still very concerned that there is an inadequacy of parking there, which could negatively impact, say, the Outfield Tavern, which they've got their own parking, but they don't want that occupied by other people and restricting access to their business. So I'm really struggling to know what way to go on this, because I want the development, but I do believe we need some kind of extra arrangement regarding parking. So just interested to see what others have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Councillor Patterson? And then Councillor Good, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm conscious at the back of this development site there is land owned by this owner that is vacant for view of further development later. It would be my view that as a savvy business owner, the only reason you would increase the size of your development was if your current one was at capacity. And I think we've ascertained that if this was at capacity, there isn't sufficient car park. So I don't see why that couldn't be used as car parking space, because either they're at a level of capacity where they need the increased development, in which case they don't have enough parking, or they don't need the extra parking because they're not at capacity, in which case they don't need the development. So yeah, I think it's worth probably going back to have that conversation.
Did you want to propose an amendment for that?
I think Kevin McDonald has.
Thank you. Councillor Good.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lyons. I take on board Deputy Mayor Councillor Hort's comments in terms of the State Administrative Tribunal, in terms of, to be able to, they could knock this back if we decline it. I actually perhaps I don't share the great concerns that the other councillors have regarding the parking. I'm actually thinking it's reasonable. And the reason why I say that is that I can recall in the past 10 years we had the same discussions over the McDonald's and Dome at the Gosnells Town Centre because we're going to crowd out Coles car park. They've done fine. I certainly understand the owner of the Atfield wanting to protect his business as he'd want to. And matter of fact, I was encouraged to hear him say that the potential for growth, which I encourage. I'm actually very supportive of this development. I'll make it very, very clear. This is not a development where it stands alone, there's nothing else around it, and you've got your car parking for your own little place. A bit like a country town almost, where you have a hotel, your area, and nothing else. There's other businesses around, and as we know, the shopping centre car park is literally 1,000 bays of almost unused space. So what happens is you park elsewhere, you park around, you park where you need to park. I don't see it as a huge issue. What I do see is this applicant, who I've never met, this is going to be a massive development, very costly. I hope it's worthwhile, because if it can be successful, not only will it attract business, it'll help the Atfield Tavern, because notice when you do a Subway or a KFC or a McDonald's, you have them all together, lots of them, and they feed off each other. You don't just have, well, you might encroach upon me. So they share resources, and this is a car parking area where they literally will overflow. So I personally am very supportive. I think it'll be a great boost to Maddington, a great boost to that area, and to see an application come through like this, the first one in 10 years I might have, of a hotel reception, it's going to really revitalise it. And if Maddington Shopping Centre do the same, as well as the Atfield Tavern, you beauty, bring it on is what I say. What I'm getting at is, of course, over time, there could be issues, but as you know, all the shops are shut at nights. The hotel is there as a reception. You balance it out. They share resources. You share car parking. In particular, I note that on the joint development assessment panels, we often have the same question. Where do you park your cars? Often these shopping centre strips have to share bays. They come and go. So I'm not overly that concerned. I just hope it's valid, but I certainly will be very supportive. I would hate to knock it back because I think SAT would overturn us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Is there any further question? Councillor Good, thank you. Councillor Good, sorry, yeah. Councillor Drew has gone again.
Madam Mayor, I faux pas because I forgot that I couldn't move a motion if I was the person who adopted the item. So I'm still torn, but if someone was to move the motion of some additional bays, the amendment I should say, so some additional bays. Thank you very much.
Anybody taking that up? Councillor Williamson? Yes, thank you, Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to speak on this matter as well, and I think I've read through this and I have the same feelings and the same concerns as all the councillors have raised. Parking in this area, on paper, it looks like it will be a problem. I grew up in Maddington, so I know the area quite well, and frequent the Maddington town centre quite often, and I feel that this development will actually be of value to the area, and the way that the centre is actually moving is a positive way forward for all the businesses in the area, including the Atfield Tavern. I do also note it's along the transit line, so you've got bus connections as well as train line connections. So visitors at the hotel may be using public transport, and even the restaurants at night, they may be frequented by people on the bus services. But currently we have apartments being constructed up the road, so they will have people looking to walk out to dinner, whether they're at the Atfield or across to this place. Different nights of the week, they may use different services. So I think with the way our current policy is, it allows for this development. We need to take that really rational view over our policy has planned for this level of parking. We have someone willing to invest, and we need to allow this to happen to be able to move forward. There's lots of vacant land around, and if this does cause a problem, we can always look at our policy to make sure the next development comes along, changes. The policy can be changed into the future of what the parking requirements are. So we can adjust to make sure that this situation, if it was to become a problem, doesn't compound. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I just ask Director Bradbrook a question, because I know that parking is an issue to the owners of the Atfield across the road. As of today, we don't really have any legal way to stop that parking overflow happening onto the Atfield. That would be correct, wouldn't it? And so, but going forward into the future, there could be options for council to do something if that parking does become a problem there. Would that be right, or am I wrong in saying that? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, under our parking local law, we can enter into parking agreements with the owners of private land where our local law would apply to that land, which means that restrictions on who can park on it can be imposed and people can be infringed if they breach those restrictions.
Thank you. I hope that answers some of the people from the Atfield Hotel a bit of their, helps them to have a little bit of peace in this, because I'll be supporting the officer's recommendation to approve this. We have set out a policy that is to make that area vibrant. We want people to come into that area. Just today I was talking to the Minister for Housing about the land across the road from it on Corfu and what the state government plans to do with that land, and hopefully in the future there'll be multi-storey developments through that whole area which will bring more people into the area, which will both complement the Atfield Tavern as well as this new development. We really are wanting to get this area moving, so I will be supporting this recommendation from the staff. Are there any further questions or debate? Did you want to close, Councillor Dewhurst? Thank you, Councillors. Oh, sorry, Councillor McDonald. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I forgot to see you as well, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, look, I just wanted to echo the views expressed by the other councillors there. I do think that the situation with an appeal is what I'm labouring with, because it is council policy to allow for this degree of parking, although I feel that the parking may be inadequate without really, being able to be certain. And I'd hate for, our local business people who've invested in our local community economically, with employment, and to the fabric of the community for such a long time. It's concerning to me that that this may impact upon their business, our decision tonight. So I am I'm very torn about what to do. But nonetheless, I'm concerned about a straight up appeal, I'm still bit not too sure, but anyway, I guess that's what I've got to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Dewhurst, you'll be closing, so if there's nothing from anybody else, did you want to close? Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I've been here long enough to read the room, and I'm not going to put any words into people's mouths, but I think this will be going ahead as put in there from council. So I am heartened with your question for the Director Bradbrook in regards to maybe we come into partnership with them and to try and support them in their parking. That was very good. Thank you very much for raising that. And everyone else has made good comments, and so at this stage I'm going to support it, but I want us to work hard with the Atfield to see what we can do to help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Councillors, if you please cast your vote. Oh, sorry. That has been carried. Thank you. Sorry? Oh, sorry, Councillor Patterson was against it. So it's still been carried. Thank you. We're moving on to item number 13.2.2, the modification to Local Planning Policy 1.1 residential development. Can I get a mover? Deputy Mayor Hort, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Deputy Mayor Hort, do you have Councillor Patterson? Anybody else? No, councillors, if you please cast your vote on that item, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to 13.3.1, the Western Power Street Audit Plan. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Betts, seconded by Councillor Good. Councillor Betts, do you have anything to say? Councillor Good? Any debate on this item? Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate the city on a pragmatic approach. You don't pay your bill unless you get the fee, unless you get the service, sorry. And so it makes sense that we find out, are we actually getting the service before we pay the bill for the streetlights? It's all too often, I'm sure we all get complaints from people in the city that say their streetlight's been out for a very long time and nothing's been done about it. It would surprise me that Western Power is aware of their lights being out without us reporting them. So I think this is a really good move forward, and hopefully we'll see us save a lot of money and at the same time improve the quality of lighting we have on our streets, which is not only a aesthetics issue but a safety one. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I absolutely agree with you. I think we should be getting what we're being charged for, and this audit is a way of bringing that about, and maybe that'll bring some change going forward with our bills from Western Power, or Synergy, I should say. So I'll be supporting this. Is there any other debate on this item? Councillor McDonald? Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly, I just wanted to echo the thoughts of Deputy Mayor Hort and yourself. I think congratulations to the staff in relation to this matter. They've shown exceptional fiduciary duty to our ratepayers in this city by keeping such a close tab. I've read through this and it's very impressive that they're doing this and watching how the ratepayers' money is being spent. So well done to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further on this item? No. Councillors, you please cast your vote. Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to item number 13.4.1, the History and Heritage Advisory Group meeting on the 3rd of August 2023. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Good, seconded by Councillor Williamson. Councillor Good. Councillor Williamson. Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I know the last time these advisory group minutes came up, we asked for action as to visiting the site for the Mansion Homestead. So just for the record, we are visiting next week, which is very exciting. I saw the invitation today. So for those councillors that haven't seen it, hopefully we'll all be at the Mansion Homestead next week to see how it's progressing, an important item for the History and Heritage Advisory Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further? No. Councillors, will you please cast your vote? Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. Moving on to item number 13.5.1, the Financial Activity Statement for July 2023. Councillor Patterson to move that. Councillor Baines to second that. Thank you. Any questions or debate on this item? No. Councillors, you please cast your vote. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to item 13.5.2, the payment of accounts for July 2023. Can I get a mover? Councillor McDonald to move that and Councillor Zhang to second that. Any debate on this item or questions? No. Councillors, you please cast your vote. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to item number 14.1, the payment of allowance for Noongar elders to perform Welcome to Country. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Dewhurst to move that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Good to second. Councillor Good. Withdrawn. Councillor Patterson to second. Thank you. Councillor Dewhurst.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Councillors, bear with me. It's taken me a couple of days to write this and reflect on the writing and what's actually happened. You would have received... Hang on, is it all right? Sorry, I thought the CEO. We received an email tonight from the Langford Aboriginal Association saying that it's not reflective of the words that are in the motions. But I must say, when we took the words there and worked them on them together, they were reflective of what they wanted, but I'd say external... I'll just wait for that to go. Yeah, so it's, they were certainly reflective of when we left the meeting, and I've showed some people some correspondence that I've had with them. But anyway, it's, but that's not bad. It's not bad that they've withdrawn it, because they respect the fact that we're having a discussion, and I see this as an opportunity. I see this as a positive, so we'll just move forward. So we gather here today as we grapple with the complexities of identity, culture and unity. The topic at hand, the commercialisation and the overuse of welcome and country acknowledgements of country ceremonies, warrant our utmost attention, amongst other things. It is an uncomfortable truth that these ceremonies, which were once a symbol of respect and understanding, are now subject to commercialisation and institutionalisation. The acknowledgement and welcome to country ceremonies have become ubiquitous practice, far removed from its original purpose. Once used to ensure permissioned safe passage through tribal boundaries, it is now employed at football games, corporate events and even back-to-back meetings within the same organisation. This mainstream has led to apathy, diluting the ceremony's cultural meaning and its special purpose. This is not an attack on culture or tradition, but a reflection on how something so meaningful has been transformed into something tokenistic, with some who find it offensive. It has become a protocol that, while intending to foster unity, has led to unintended consequences, such as dividing communities. This motion is not about discontinuing the welcome of the country. Rather, it's about making it reflective and its true intent, ensuring that it is meaningful, authentic and ringing with the values and traditions it represents. My aim is to honour the practice of a way that is sincere and aligned with both the cultural significance it holds and the community's feelings and expectations. Whilst the CEO and the executive team prepare a policy or a procedure, and of course this will continue as a status quo while this is occurring. Councillors, in the context of our current debate, it is crucial to acknowledge that feelings within our community have evolved. I have noted many good-centred people within the community find the welcome to the country offensive and critical of Aboriginal people who've never felt this way before. Why councillors? I don't know. Perhaps in the wake of the challenges surrounding the voice and the now repealed native title legislation within Western Australia, many good people have become critical of Aboriginal communities. This situation has created division, isolation, and significantly contributed to the mental health concerns within our community. Whilst we cannot alter the discussions and the decisions made regarding the voice of native title legislation, what we can do is strive to build unity within our community by becoming more consultative, by considering the feelings and perspectives of people within our city. We have an opportunity to develop a way forward that embodies true and responsible leadership. Councillors, I shouldn't have to remind you that it's essential to understand the distinct roles as councillors here. We as a council are responsible for setting the direction. I'm asking you to help set this direction by envisioning the community as we aspire to create. We dream, we plan, we define, and we desire our community to become. However, it falls to our capable operational team within the city, led by the CEO and his experienced executive team, to navigate the intricate details. They possess the expertise, the knowledge, the on-ground experience to transform our vision into tangible reality, adhering to the principles of equality and fairness that we all hold so dear. The motion before you provides the CEO and the executive team with a blank page, not direction on how to do their jobs, but an opportunity to go out and consult, imagine, to engage in true dialogue that is truly inclusive. It allows them to listen, to collaborate and to set a strategic course that reflects the collective wisdom and shared goals of our community. Through open...
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Can I just seek clarification?
Point of order.
Point of order.
7.11.
Is he speaking on item 14.1 with relevance? Because that's about payment, not about a policy. And he's introducing something which I think is in relation to 14.2.
He is talking about performs welcomes to Noongar country, so that is mentioned in his proposed motion.
Sorry, I just don't see anything in his proposed motion about a policy.
No, there is nothing in the proposed motion about a policy, Councillor Dewhurst.
Just a little confused.
If you could stay on track to what's in your proposed motion, thank you.
Certainly. Should the CEO and the executive team report that an allowance would not work, then that is fine with me. At least we have explored the possibilities. The executive team may come back with another solution that we have not thought of, so let's leave the how to them. Let's embrace our unique role, focusing on imagination, strategy and long-term planning. And then with trust and cooperation, allow those with the necessary skills to execute our vision, knowing our collective efforts aim for a community that thrives on inclusivity and celebrates diversity, standing united in the spirit of fairness. Councillors, tonight we have the opportunity to honour the sacred traditions of our Noongar community. By ensuring genuine, respectful practices, we pave the way for a future that not only acknowledges the heritage, culture and wisdom of those who have been here before us, but also considers the diverse sentiments of all within our community. I encourage my fellow councillors to hold fast to the vision. I ask you to walk with me to embark on this journey with the unity, embroidering leadership that's both thoughtful and responsive. Madam Mayor, through you. Mr CEO, should this motion be accepted, what's next?
Sorry, Councillor Dewhurst, did you want to read out what your actual proposed motion is as part of your motion there? Thank you. And then I'll get the director to, the CEO to answer your question.
Okay. So it's on the agenda, which has been published. And, that the city pay an allowance for Noongar elders living in the Gosnells on another Noongar person giving permission for a Noongar elder to perform welcomes to Noongar country based on the time required for the person involved and the cost the person incurs.
Okay, now your question is, did you have something that you wanted to call a point of order on something there, Councillor Betts? Thank you. Councillor Patterson will be next, thank you. Mr CEO, the question is if this motion is passed, what would happen then?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'd need to establish what an acceptable allowance was, and of course we're not the services provided by others, so we'd need to work with them to determine what that will be.
Thank you. I'll move on to the seconder of this, which is Councillor Patterson. Would you like to speak to this item? Thank you, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 4 years I've been a part of this council and I've never been ashamed to say that until now. This is the most bigoted thing I have ever seen, and for you to stand there as a white man in a room full of white people and say that we trust our executive to look at the equities of fairness, that is unbelievable. That is absolutely unbelievable. I don't believe that truck drivers in the Pilbara should get paid $200,000, but that's what it costs. That's what they get paid. I think an acknowledgement of country, I feel privileged to be a part of an acknowledgement of country, and I think we should pay what it costs. And to say that we pay only what it's worth, who are we to determine that? Like, in what world? I absolutely are so unsupportive of this, it's not funny.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Betts, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The motion before us, I'm quite supportive of, but what Councillor Dewhurst spoke about, I thought was somewhat different. Basically, as I read the motion, that the city pay an allowance to Noongar elders living in Gosnells, or another Noongar elder, to perform welcomes to country based on the time required from the person involved and the costs the person incurs. That's pretty straightforward kind of a statement, and I think when I saw this motion on the agenda, I thought back to time, and I dug it out of the media, thanks to Dr. Google, that like at the opening of the Parliament, at the time of Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard, there was a fee paid for the welcome to country, but it was not disclosed, and that caused quite some ruckus because apparently it was a very huge sum of money. And when the 44th Parliament, led by Tony Abbott, he did disclose the fee, and that was $10,500 for the person to do the welcome to country. And at the time, a lot of people thought, hang on a minute, that is excessive. For somebody who's local to go and do a welcome to country that takes 5 minutes or something like that, to be paid $10,500, that's irresponsible use of taxpayers' money. And I would actually agree with that. The other thing about welcome to country, I think it's important that we actually recognise that the welcome to country is actually not an Aboriginal cultural practice. The contemporary welcome to country was created by Ernie Dingo and Richard Wally in 1976 when a group of visiting Pacific Islander dancers refused to perform unless they were welcomed with a ceremony, because in their culture you don't do anything on anybody else's country unless you have that welcome. And so they quickly organised it, and since then it's kind of developed a life of its own. Bess Price, a full-blood Aboriginal and former member of the Northern Territory Parliament, is on public record saying, "We don't do that in communities. It's just a recent thing. It's just people who are trying to grapple with something they believe should be traditional." And many of you know that.
Councillor Betts, we need to remain apolitical on this and just keep that in mind, because you're quoting what one party might say, but it might not be what the other party says.
I don't even know what party she's from. I've got no idea.
Let's just stay a little bit apolitical.
I'm not sure whether she was a Liberal, a Labor or an Independent, sorry. And as you know, for nearly 20 years I took teams up to Warburton, the remote Aboriginal community, with a team from our church to do holiday programs for the kids up there. And we were certainly made very welcome, but there was never, ever a welcome to country ceremony. It's just not part of their culture to do that. The community were very glad to see us. They kept inviting us back, but there was never a welcome to country. And
excuse me, can I just call a point of order?
Williamson, your point of order?
I don't think that's factual. The welcome to country, the reason...
Sorry, you'd need to quote which point of order you're calling.
Sorry.
There's got to be a point of order for something being wrong.
you're saying it's factually incorrect? Is that what you're asking?
That it's factually incorrect.
I can... Okay, yeah.
I'll give you a minute to see if you can find a point of order. Councillor Williamson, thank you. Council's indulgement, Councillor Williamson, you might want to look at 7.18, last topic.
Yeah. So I will draw that one at the moment.
Okay, you can withdraw it, but just so you know that on section 7.18, adverse reflection, a member shall at all times be factual when dealing with matters before council and not knowingly make false or misleading statements. None to say that Councillor Betts doesn't feel that this is what his knowledge has told him, so he may not knowingly be making misleading statements based on his own knowledge.
Okay,
so, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Betts. Please proceed.
Thank you. I appreciate your desire to have a point of order, but I just point out that historically, you can go to Professor Keith Windschuttle's books, Gary John's book on Aboriginal culture. It simply isn't. It's only started in 1976. That's where it started. In Aboriginal culture, there is no record anywhere of any welcome to country prior to 1976. So, I'm open to be corrected, but that's my research indicates that, and I haven't found anything to the contrary. So, I do believe it is correct. So basically, what I'm saying is, with the motion as it stands, would be that if the Mayor deems it appropriate to have a welcome to country for a particular event, that we... No. Yeah, we're talking about 14.1, aren't we? Fine, 14.1, that if the Mayor, because I assume it's normally the Mayor who makes that decision, or the CEO, whoever makes the decision about welcome to country, that the person is remunerated. We don't ask them to do it for free, but that we pay them on a time basis, and if they've got a bit of travel, that they get that gets covered. I think that's a reasonable request to put before this council, but that the amount that gets paid is in fact for their time plus travel and not some nebulous fee like what happened with the opening of federal parliament. So I don't have any issue with the motion that Councillor Dewhurst moved, and I think that that this whole thing of welcome to country, perhaps I can just say, sometimes we've had them at citizenship ceremonies, and what I'd like to see actually is that we even do, and it's perhaps not germane to this motion, but I'll quickly say it, is that we have other groups who have a long history in this country to actually share a bit of their history, because I think some of the welcomes to country that I've heard have been really, really interesting, where people have given some of the Indigenous history of the local area, and I think that's really, really helpful. I've also heard other, not the City of Gosnells ones, but other welcome to country which were quite, in my view, very inappropriate and divisive kind of statements. So I think for these
Sorry,
things...
Councillor Betts, you have gone over your time of 5 minutes. Unless would you like to request an extension for your speaking?
No, I'm fine.
No, you're fine. I'm going to be speaking against Councillor Dewhurst's motion. I just wanted to jump in there if councillors don't mind. I'll be entering into the debate. I'll be speaking against the motion that Councillor Dewhurst has brought forward. I've done a bit of research today, and I just want to point out that 1976, when Councillor Betts, you've said that Welcome to Country was not happening, we also weren't being taught language in school. In actual fact, students that I went to school with in the little old town of Sharp Bay were not allowed to speak their own language. So times have changed since 1976, I am happy to say. I would also like to point out that I just did a bit of research today on what a keynote speaker might be paid to do a keynote speak based on their experience and what knowledge that they might bring forward. And would it surprise you to say that they're anywhere between $1,500 to $30,000 and sometimes in excess of $50,000 for a keynote speaker that might only speak for 30, 40, 90 minutes, whatever it may be. So keynote speakers, as I've said, they often, I'm going to read from my thing here, for $1,500 to $30,000 for presentations. And these addresses can take as little or as long as the speaker sees fit. If, for example, a keynote speech lasted 90 minutes, the cost would be anywhere between $40 to $120 a minute. Aboriginal cultural offerings like Welcome to Country, artistry and ceremonies involve their intellectual property. It's what they've learnt over the years, it's what they've done to become an elder, and it is what they've done to become accepted within their community, to have the ability and have the permission to give that welcome to country, and I think they should be paid accordingly. It's not for us to say that if they're there for 5 minutes, they spent the last 60 years becoming an elder, so they have the right, they've been voted in or they've been given permission by their peers to conduct welcome to countries, and they should be compensated accordingly. Now, on the Southwest Aboriginal Land Sea Council, they are saying that compensating can be amounts between $500 to $1,000, which is generally what the city pays for welcome to countries. If there are more things within that welcome to country, like smoking ceremonies, or if they're playing the didgeridoo, or if they've got extra dancers there, that's more than one person coming, they are compensated accordingly. So this is vital that they are paid, because it highlights the value of their cultural wisdom and leadership. And this practice aligns with the principle that recognition, respect and fair remuneration should be extended to all individuals who play a pivotal role in fostering and understanding connections between cultures. And that's what we have here. We have a situation where we have to create understanding between cultures, and our Aboriginal people are our First Nations people, and that is part of how we show that what their culture is to the wider community. Some of the people that come to our events don't even probably never get to see a welcome to country, they only see it at ours. And I would hazard to say that the city over an entire year, on average, we probably only have one welcome to country a month, on average, which would equate to less than $12,000 a year. And we're talking about how much they should be paid to do that? I don't think so. So I will not be supporting your motion. Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Councillor Patterson, you were next with your hand up. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I absolutely agree with your comments, Madam Mayor. So much so that I have a foreshadowed motion. But I would like to begin by just thanking Councillor Dewhurst for raising the motion tonight about the payments to Aboriginal elders. for delivering the Welcome to Country. I believe it is an important topic to be discussed, as I absolutely agree that they should be paid. But the amount that's been proposed is what I have a problem with. The way that it will be calculated is what I have a problem with. It's a cultural service. They are coming and delivering their skills and their intellectual property, like Madam Mayor has stated. It should be more than just the cost. It should be more than just the cost incurred to travel here. The notion of true cost, which is introduced in the commentary by Councillor Dewhurst, I actually found insulting. Who determines true cost? Who determines the value of this? I can't help but question these things. It's the accountant in me. There are just so many questions. How can we pay an allowance to a person who's not an employee? How would the allowance be set? Who is going to determine the hourly rate? How will they get a fair say? How can they interact with the city when the city is setting the precedence of the amount they want to pay? How would the city determine what different rates an elder was valued at? How would they determine what services were valued higher than others? In a normal business circumstances, this price is set by the vendor, by the supplier. They know their product, they know their service, they set the price and they go to the open market. It's then up to you whether you engage their service or not. Our community, our culture tells us it is a service that we need. We need to show respect to the Aboriginal culture. We need to close the gap and we need to respect the elders. In doing so, the Welcome to Country has evolved. It may have only come about, like Councillor Dewhurst, Councillor Abetz said, in the last 40 years, and it may be becoming commercialised, as some people may say, but the message had been there for a long time. It was there and then it was oppressed. They were not permitted to perform their spiritual or cultural acts. What it looked like many, many thousands of years ago, it would look very different to what it looks today. But the meaning and the connection is still there, and they have a right to share that with us. Before I started on council 6 years ago, I had never seen a Welcome to Country. Now I have seen many Welcome to Countries, and I can see it evolve and change, and the delivery of different messages and different stories has left me personally enriched. I have a greater understanding of the Aboriginal culture, and it's one that I want to respect, and I want the future generations to be exposed to those same beliefs and know we're in Australia, this is where it came from, and this is the history. So I think I cannot support Councillor Dewhurst's motion, and I will be foreshadowing another motion which reads that Council requests the CEO continues to invite Noongar elders to perform a Welcome to Country at significant city events under a fee-for-service arrangement, as is already occurring, which is in accordance with the Noongar protocols developed by the South West Aboriginal Land and Sea Council, being the native title representative body of the Noongar people. Now, the policy has been thrown about as well, so I will actually put a point 2 to that. That the Council requests the Chief Executive Officer to prepare a policy in relation to the Welcome to Country protocols that A, defines the circumstances in which a Welcome to Country should occur at city functions and events. B, the process the city will follow to engage and make payment to the elder for the cultural service. C, outlines cultural protocols to be observed and followed in accordance with Noongar protocols developed by the South West Aboriginal Land and Sea Council, being the native title representative body of the Noongar people. D, deals with any other issues the CEO considers necessary. Point 3, that Council requests the Chief Executive Officer to consult with the Langford Aboriginal Association and the RAP working group that has already been formed in the development of the policy. The reasons for this, I'll go on to read the reason. It is important to recognise that Council and the City values the contributions of the Elders delivering a welcome to country at City events. The City currently engages with Elders to provide information about the event and attendees to enable the Elder to prepare for the welcome. In many cases, the welcome to country includes additional elements such as storytelling, traditional dance, didgeridoo performances, smoking ceremonies, or other cultural activities. As such, I believe it is fair and reasonable for the Elders to negotiate a fee that reflects their time, cost, value of intellectual property and skills as any other person would do when engaging with the City. This will ensure there is fairness and equality when engaging with Elders. I do not support the notion of an allowance being paid to the Elder to only cover the true cost, being a payment for time and costs incurred, as suggested in the notice. The Noongar Protocol developed by I'll shorten it, SWALSC, indicates the fee for cultural services such as Welcome to Country is in the range of $500 to $1,000. However, it should be negotiated with the Elder as it may increase to include additional costs for additional cultural performances. As the City does not have a policy setting out protocols for the Welcome to Country, I believe it would be prudent for the Council to request the CEO prepares the policy that reflects the Council's decision tonight. However, it is at the CEO's discretion to combine the policy with other cultural matters such as an acknowledgement to country. As the City is currently working on the development of a reconciliation action plan, it is appropriate for the CEO to consult with the RAP working group to develop the policy. In addition, we are fortunate to have a strong and respectful relationship with the Langford Aboriginal Association, and it would be of great value for the City to consult and seek guidance from LAA. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Is there any further debate on... Councillor Good, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lyons. I'm actually very much in support of the motion. I think it's actually wise that we do so. I'm also mindful of the words, as Councillor Williamson has identified, the true cost and only the true cost. And that's a very, very powerful comment, and I actually understand what you mean by that, and it's excellent. What I'm mindful of is the fact of when you're paying for money, well, this is ratepayers' money. If we work for the state or federal, it'd be taxpayers' money, but it's our ratepayers' money. I'm always concerned by, is it getting value for money? Generally speaking, most of the welcome to countries are less than 15 minutes. When I have spoken to some very senior Aboriginal people, they themselves tell me they're embarrassed. So I'm going, I hear you loud and clear. I've been told that many times that they're embarrassed about it. Under 14.2, I will make further comment. But what I would like to do is, I've got an amendment to be looked at. And the amendment reads this, that the motion be amended by the inclusion of the following additional part, that Council request the Chief Executive Officer to prepare a consultation plan for seeking community input into protocols for Welcome to Country ceremonies at the City's civic and community events. For the following reason, to ensure protocols adopted by Council accurately reflect community expectations. My point is simply a case of we need to actually, to me, draw limits, because I know Councillor Patterson and Councillor Williamson talk about the money and you felt difficult by the amount. My point is, okay, does that mean you pay someone $5,000 for 15 minutes? Where do you draw the limit? It's taxpayers, ratepayers' monies. My concern is the value. Now, if we want to set a budget and have a figure, fine, but I can't just keep doing it on and go, well, because they want it. No. Yes, if you're hiring a lawyer. Yes, if you're hiring a doctor. You see any professional. That's private enterprise. We are looking after the ratepayers' funds. We cannot just simply continue to give out monies for 15 minutes of work at these levels. So I'm actually supportive of the motion, and I'm hoping I have a seconder for my amendment. Do I have a...
Good, have a seconder. You're happy to second that? Did you want to speak to your amendment?
Well, I think it's a fact of we could go round and round in circles, and whilst I enjoy a good debate and a good argument, I'm just simply saying that if we get the Chief Executive Officer to review, set up some protocols, have a look into it, and actually really investigate this thoroughly, we can all come to a happy conclusion.
I just have a quick question, if you don't mind. Who would the Chief Executive Officer consult with?
Well, it's got here community input, obviously our local Langford Aboriginal Association and any other groups who are not included. So in other words, talk to people.
Sorry, 1 second. Sorry, I will ask the seconder if he would like to speak to that amendment. Thank you.
I think it's a reasonable amendment that Councillor Goods put forward. The main motion basically says what it says that we've talked about, and this this amendment basically says, well, let's look at this in a little bit more detail, and if the report that comes back shows something else, we can always modify that, but for the time being, it's the motion that's the main body of the motion is the practice that we pay people. We don't expect it to be done for free. We pay them their travel, we pay them for their time, that's fine, but we also do this investigation, and I think that's a positive thing. And I think in terms of the type of input that we would seek, we've got your Gosnells Facebook page, Have Your Say. We could be put on there that anybody could make a contribution. And I think one thing we do need to remember is that within the Aboriginal community as well, there is quite a diversity of opinions about lots of different things. I was just up in Kununurra at the weekend, and I met someone who's a cousin of Thomas Mayo, who's absolutely, pro The Voice, and his cousin is totally opposed to it. You get this diversity. So to give not only the Langford Aboriginal Association, not only the SWALSC input, but a bit broader input from our community, and see what the thoughts are. I think there's value in that consultation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Betts. Councillor Patterson and then Deputy Mayor Hort. Thank you. You're speaking to the amendment.
Yep, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question related to Councillor Good's statement. Actually, no, it's a statement. In terms of spending money on things valuable, just so the community's aware, this meeting cost $56,600 to listen to this. That's how much this cost, $56,600 in wages for all of us to sit here and talk about this. So if I think money could be better spent, that's where I'd...
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, this is relevant for the earlier discussion, but it probably still continues on now. I respect everyone's opinions on this, and I think it's good that Councillor Dewhurst felt comfortable raising this and bringing this here. I feel I've been trying to distill it as I'm sitting here. It's an enormous discomfort talking about this. In all my time as a professional, I've only ever had discussions about Aboriginal people with Aboriginal people, and there's an uncomfortableness there. And I thought I'd share that because I'm trying to figure out why I'm sitting so funny in my chair. And I think a part of that for me, I'm not sure what this achieves. I'm not sure what any of this achieves. I'm not sure what this discussion achieves. And that's another thing that I've been trying to wrap my head around as we progress, because my understanding, I've been toying with this since we found out about the motion on Thursday, and my understanding is we're currently undergoing a reconciliation action plan process at the moment, and I think I would like to understand where we're at in that process, because I think that actually contributes to this discussion really nicely. So if I can start by asking that of the city, a progress report.
And I'll ask the Director for Community Engagement, Mrs Glenda Blake, to answer that question. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Yes, Deputy Mayor Hort, we are well down the track of our Reconciliation Action Plan. We've engaged an Aboriginal organisation, Camberang Services, to help us develop the RAP. We've formed an internal RAP working group, which is comprised of staff from across the organisation. I'm the champion of that group. We've also done some cultural awareness workshops with the RAP working group, which is a requirement from Reconciliation Australia. We have, Camberang Services have workshopped the vision, the values, some of the actions with the internal working group. They've also been out to Langford Aboriginal Association with some of the elders to actually workshop those vision and values and get input and feedback from LAA and Aboriginal elders. We now have a draft that I'm actually working on. Once I'm satisfied with that draft, we have to test it with Reconciliation Australia, get some feedback. The next steps would be to take it to executive, to take it to a councillor workshop, and then take the final RAP, or take the RAP, sorry, for final council endorsement.
Thank you. So I just want to recap on that. We have a reconciliation action plan currently in draft. There's been consultation from LAA and other Aboriginal elders in our community. It's going to go to executive, a bunch of non-Aboriginal people, and then it's going to come to us as a council as a bunch of non-Aboriginal people. So we've got the local Aboriginal people who have contributed to this. We have our lens applied as well, obviously, to it as part of that workshop. Does it include what we would do with Welcome to Country?
Thank you for the question. I believe it does, but I'll let the Director respond to that. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Reconciliation Australia provide a template. Now, we're not strictly bound by that template, but one of the actions in the template is to actually look at cultural protocols around welcome to countries and acknowledgement of countries. So sitting underneath that, you could have some actions. So yes.
So I'm just going to backwards deconstruct, if I may, Madam Mayor, because this talks about we need to have a consultation plan for Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people in our community. We're the representatives of that community. We've got representation from the Aboriginal community through the RAP process. So I don't think there's any merit to this. It's already captured in the RAP, so I'm not in support of that. And then I go to...
Just talking on the amendment at the moment, so you're not in support of the amendment?
Yeah, but I'm going to be naughty.
No, you're
and
not.
Just go, can I be more naughty, please, Madam Mayor? Because I didn't get a chance to speak earlier.
Well, you can speak when it comes back to the original item, Deputy Mayor.
I'm on a roll, Madam Mayor.
No,
So I think
I'll call you up if you...
I think that more generally speaking then, about the amendments that this applies to, I guess we're already capturing all of this in the RAP. We're already capturing who does this, how are they paid. It's a relatively mature process by the sounds of things. RAPs don't happen overnight. It's been happening for a while. It's all coming together. We're nearly there, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moving on, Councillor Dewhurst, you want to speak on the amendment?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look, I'm really good that, I'm so glad that as white people sitting around the table here, as Councillor Batterson pointed out, as a white man standing here, feeling that I can't speak on behalf of Aboriginal people, well, I feel I can because I work with Aboriginal people, I have good friends with Aboriginal people, but I support this amendment. This amendment is about inclusion and also diversity and engaging with the wider community. And we shouldn't be feeling uncomfortable having this conversation. And this is what the problem is in this country. People are uncomfortable having this conversation. We shouldn't have to be uncomfortable. We should be able to speak our mind with respect.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, 7.16.
Sorry, if you could take a seat, Councillor Dewhurst.
I just say 7.16 personal explanations. I'm very comfortable having this conversation with Aboriginal people present and the elders present. I'm uncomfortable without them present. That's the uncomfortableness I was describing. I just want to make that clear.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst.
Like Councillor Hort, I was on kind of a roll now, but you've just lost me. So you've done well, mate. You've done very well.
Not in control of who calls point of orders, Deputy
that's fine.
Councillor Dewhurst.
But you know what, but we should be feeling comfortable to have these discussions because this amendment is about, and this motion is about going out and talking to the wider community, to the Aboriginal people, to talking to non-Aboriginal people, talking to a lot of people in regards to about the welcome to countries. And I know it was brought up about the true cost, and it's always been my intention that after this happened tonight, if the motion did go up, well, the CEO would go away and then work out how this could actually happen. And I'm sure, and give him a blank piece of paper so he could do this, and he'd actually go and talk to Reconciliation Australia. He would go talk to the Aboriginal organisations around the area here, not just LAA, and talk to other Aboriginal people who are not a part of these processes, but also talk to people, you know, the diggers standing out there, and who's got also opinion about this as well. Everyone needs to have a say, Madam Mayor, and this is what this amendment, this motion's about. That's all I'm asking. I'm saying, let's not bury this, councillors. I'm just asking us, in regards to this amendment, support the amendment. Let's get it up. Let's not be scared, and so we can talk further about reconciliation. But when you talk about the Reconciliation Action Plan, I agree with what Councillor Hort's saying, but I don't think on this particular topic that we are representative of the community, because the community are telling me something extremely different than this warm, huggy feeling that we're all having here at the moment. And I'm not saying to do away with acknowledgement of countries. I'm saying let's make it better. Let's get inclusive with the whole community, Madam Mayor. And that's what this amendment is talking about, is actually going out and actually asking the CEO to get some true dialogue. Okay? It's not a racist thing. It's not anything apart from that. Is that I'm representing the people of the City of Gosnells, Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal. And then both sides, Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people, agree and disagree with me, okay? But at least I'm having that conversation. And I think we should, as a council, we should actually have a look at it, and maybe we can do something better and bring our community together, because quite frankly, the hard rap Aboriginal people are getting of their no doing of their own it's making me feel sick. This is why I brought this together, to have this conversation and we to go and have that. So I'm asking you to support this motion as it is now, and I can see the amendment as it is, and let's have these discussions. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. I'll just jump in if councillors don't mind, and I won't be supporting the amendment that goes with the original motion, in that Councillor Dewhurst, you talk about a blank page, and I do appreciate your passion on this item, and I understand that you may have good intentions of where you want this to end, and it's been good that it's had a starting space, but at the end of the day, the blank page that we have to work on is the RAP. It has been looked at across Australia. The template has been predetermined by Reconciliation Australia in consultation with Aboriginal people across Australia, not just here. So we have a template to work on that blank page can be added to. So based on that, and the fact that we are so well advanced in our RAP, as we are, and we've already had consultation, there will be opportunity for further consultation. There'll be opportunity for councillors to have further input into that RAP and what that has, including the protocols of acknowledgement to country and all of that.
Sorry, I thought you finished.
I was on a roll then. You interrupted my roll. So, councillors, I won't be supporting the amendment, as I have said, for those reasons, that we have a blank page and it is called a RAP. Thank you. Councillor Williamson, do you want to speak for or against the debate? Against. I'll see if there's anyone for the debate before you. Councillor Williamson. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to start with a question, though, through you, Madam Mayor. Does the RAP stipulate the payment terms or the payment type, how we determine the cost?
Ask the Director to respond to that, but I would also first like to add for councillors' knowledge that when we do go out, from my perspective, from the Mayor's office, we ask for a quote first. We don't just go out blanket and wait to see what the bill is. We can negotiate that with them and say, look, hey, that is over the top. Or it may not. I haven't had to do that, thank goodness, but it is an option that can be done prior to employing anyone for their services, as you would for any service that you employed in the city. You have an option to ask how much that service is first. But I will let the Director respond as to whether that allowance is mentioned in the RAP. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I mean, obviously it's just a draft document at the moment, but no, the RAP won't go into that sort of detail. It won't stipulate costs. I mean, it talks about protocols, but we won't go into what it costs. I mean, we follow normal purchasing protocol and seek requests for quote from about 3 suppliers when we're actually commissioning Welcome to Countries, and again the cost depends on whether it's a single speech or whether it has a single speech and other cultural performances attached. So, no, sorry.
Councillor Williamson, did you want to have another question or speak to the item?
Yes, so I'll speak against this amendment on the basis that the amendment actually doesn't deal with the issue in front of us tonight. The issue is whether we pay an allowance to Noongar elders, and the allowance reflects only the true cost, being the cost of their time and the cost incurred. So going out to consultation, I can't imagine what the question would be. How much do you want to pay? How much do you think we should pay? I just can't imagine the city being able to consult on that question. So I just want to draw councillors' focus back onto the proposed motion. There's been lots of things said. It's getting confusing. It's getting confusing for me. I think we all have good intentions, but the question is here, do we pay an allowance as proposed by Councillor Dewhurst? And I think tonight, that's the decision we're making. We're not going out to consultation with the community about do we pay an allowance or do we pay a fee for service. That's a decision we need to make now. Thank you.
Okay, we're still on the amendment. You have a question, Councillor Dewhurst?
Point of clarification, but I just can't find it in the standing orders.
Yep.
There's been no mention if we pay an allowance to elders. And I don't think that's right. What it is that we actually look
Councillor
at the
Dewhurst,
true
your
cost.
proposed motion talks about that the city pay an allowance for Noongar elders living in Gosnells or another Noongar person given permission by a Noongar elder. So it does talk about paying an allowance.
Does it say if, Madam Mayor? Sorry, I'll stand corrected.
Yep, that's okay. You've got a question?
So I just want to know, it's not a question, it's actually a point of order.
Okay.
Because there's no such thing as a word in there. I can't see if in there. And it keeps getting used, if we're going to pay these people money. There's no comment whatsoever, if we're going to pay them money or
Let's talk
not.
about what your point of order is. You're talking about something along the relevance, and you're saying that the relevant is that payment of an allowance is not part of your motion.
Councillor Williamson keeps saying that this is about if we're going to pay Noongar people an allowance. You said it 3 times then.
Okay, yes, because your motion, let me just...
Is the word if in there? That's why I ask.
Say that again, sorry?
Is the word if in there?
No. If. No,
Words
it's
are very powerful, Madam Mayor.
that the city pay an allowance is your wording.
Mm-hmm. No. But there's no if there. Is there an if there? I'm just trying to get the word if, because if is a very powerful word.
Can you just repeat your question and where your point of order is? You're talking about relevance. Which section is that?
I'm talking about relevance. Well, we had
Okay.
that up a little minute ago. I'm sure the CEO's
I'm going to give you a moment and I'll look for the point of order because I've done that previously tonight. So
Thank you.
where is the relevance? Relevance. A member is to restrict his or her remarks to the motion or amendment under discussion to a personal explanation or point of order. So can you, I see your relevance in the point of orders here. I'm just not sure how you're bringing that together with the word if. Could you just rephrase what you're saying there?
Yeah, so Councillor Williamson has been saying that my motion that I've brought up tonight is about if we pay elders an allowance. She said if 3 times. I sat there and listened to it.
Okay, we'll just clarify that your motion does say that the city pay an allowance. You're saying in your motion that we are paying the allowance. Does that clear that?
Sorry, can you say it again?
No, Councillor Betts, sorry.
Can you clarify what you said?
So you're saying that Councillor Williamson shouldn't be saying if we pay an allowance and that your motion actually says that we do pay an allowance?
Yes, it does.
Yes,
yeah.
that is
So
correct.
that
Your
is
motion
correct.
does say that the city pay an allowance?
Yes.
Okay,
So
thank you.
it's not if.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Dewhurst's motion is that the city pay an allowance. The first line of his proposed motion is that we pay an allowance, so it is in there.
Clarity. We have a decision. So you've got if we do pay an allowance. Yeah. We don't currently pay an allowance. We pay fee for service.
Okay.
There's an important difference.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Williamson, for that clarification. Are you happy, Councillor Dewhurst? Moving on, have you got a question?
I still think it's still playing on words and
Okay.
it's being a bit decisive.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Is there any further debate or questions on the amendment, councillors?
Yes.
Question.
So the question is in regards to a comment that I think you made, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, in regards to the RAP. So what I need to ask, the question is, either through to yourself or to the CEO, to whoever else you want to answer the question, but is it a true reconciliation action plan by not involving what I call the punters within the city or the people that it reflects?
Point of order, Madam Mayor. 10.8, can this motion now be put? Because we're going in circles.
Sorry, Councillor Patterson, has Councillor Patterson spoken to this amendment at all?
She has.
You've spoken, you can't put it. Sorry, carry on. Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
So it's a bit disappointing that we're trying to wrap this up and
Don't
cover
worry,
it up,
carry
Madam
on.
Mayor. So it's but anyway, so the RAP, Reconciliation Action Plan. The question is a true reconciliation action plan that has held a lot of discussions, which we do need. We need a reconciliation action plan. But do you think that it's a true reconciliation plan if we don't engage what I call the punters, everyone else without, well, not everyone, but the majority of our...
You need to get to your question because you've got a fair bit of debate within your question.
Oh, well,
so if you could get to your question, thank you.
I've had two questions there. Do you think it's a true representation? How do you think that the community will engage with the Reconciliation Action Plan if they're not a part of the actual plan to devise the plan itself?
I think that you're confused on the process for the Reconciliation Action Plan.
Please enlighten me.
In that we have already consulted widely with the Aboriginal community, who we are preparing a reconciliation action plan of how we're going to be able to empower them going forward to do things and how we're going to show our respect towards them. But I guess your question may be on how we're consulting the wider non-Aboriginal community on our RAP. So this has still got to come to council for a endorsement of the RAP, I might add. But I also am going to ask the director if, when the RAP is finished, if that then does go out for community consultation. Thank you, Director. Does that happen? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, different local governments have different approaches, but if that's something that council wanted us to do, absolutely, we could put it out for community consultation.
Answer your question?
Thank you very much. That's exactly what I'm after. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Debate or comment on or questions on the amendment. Councillors, if you please cast your vote on the amendment. Oh, that's a show of hands. Those in favour for the amendment? 1, 2, 3. That amendment has been lost. We now move back to the original item. Is there any further debate on the original motion? For those that haven't spoken, you'll be closing, Councillor Dewhurst. Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you, on the original
Just a question, Madam Mayor. When you were talking obviously about your process, and so did the Director of Community Engagement when receiving quotes and the like. How much do we pay for like a musician at the citizenship ceremony, or I know at the public art exhibition we have the harpists there and things like that? How much do we, on average, do we pay for them?
Yeah. For the citizenship it varies, around 250, sometimes a bit more, but I'm imagining that some of the artists that we get for community engagement are significantly more than that, but I'll ask the Director to respond to that. Thank you, Director Blake.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's just such a broad question because it depends on who the musician is and the quality of the performance. You know, we could pay anything from $1,500 to, if you're looking at, some of the artists at Fusion, you're looking at $15,000, $20,000. Some of the performers at, say, Australia Day, you're probably looking at between $1,000 and $2,500. We'd probably pay that much for MCs, some MCs as well. Again, depending on the time and the quality.
So just coming back to the original
question. Or you asking another question?
I'm going to go talk now, if that's all right, Madam Mayor. So if I'm going back to the original motion, I just don't know any difference that will come out of this process? It sounds like there's already a due process that occurs, just like it occurs for the musicians or any other fee for service that we acquire. I'm just not sure. Maybe it's a question for the CEO. What difference would this make if this went through tonight? It's not clear to me, the original motion now.
Okay, and I think that question was asked by Councillor Dewhurst earlier. He said, if this goes through, then what?
Yeah.
But I'll get the CEO to respond in that little bit of a different way that you've asked
Sorry,
it.
thank you, Madam Mayor.
That's okay.
You should stay standing.
Thank you.
Look, again, it's if we want to procure a service, we'll need to go to market and find who can provide the service. And as we do, we'd normally seek quotes and we'd accept the quote which is either best meets the city's needs. It doesn't necessarily need to be the lowest. We could think that we'd like to pay less, but equally, unless we can deliver the service ourselves, which we can't, because we would need to go to market and procure the service.
I guess my interpretation and why I'm not for this motion is that I just don't see what it achieves other than generating this debate here tonight. The same end result is the end result. So I have the utmost respect for the fact that it's been raised, and I'd fight for any councillor's right to raise whatever they need to raise in this meeting. But I don't think any difference will come from this, even if this gets up tonight. The process is the process.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hort. If there are no further questions or debate on the item, Councillor Dewhurst will close the debate. Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, just to clarify with what Councillor Hort has just said, that the difference may be is that we may be underpaying them as well. So we'd have let's look at the process and go through it. So I'm pretty disappointed that we don't want to do consultation. We don't want to go through that process with bringing this particular matter up. But anyway, now we're at a stage to vote and deliberate on the motion. I want to capture the thoughts, sentiments and considerations that have been shared. My discussion began with the profound recognition of the importance of Noongar culture within our community, and also acknowledge the rich tapestry of traditions and the necessity to honour those practices by compensate fairly. However, we also touched upon areas that require careful thought. The definition of the true cost, the considerations of other Aboriginal groups, and the implementation process were raised. But the conversation didn't stop there, Madam Mayor. Our debate also shed light on the foreshadowed motion, and I stand before you to articulate my reservations. While I recognise the importance of respecting Noongar elders and their cultural traditions, I find it deeply concerning that this foreshadowed motion seeks to simply continue the status quo without addressing the broader community issues, ignoring critical challenges and sidelining them for a fee-for-service approach does not signal engagement of a genuine understanding of our community's needs. It reflects a superficial gesture rather than a commitment to authentic dialogue with the Aboriginal community. Further, at no time have I stated that we should stop the Welcome to Country. Councillors, let's the process work out first. So yes, let's continue and we'll see what comes up with, and more inclusively, resident of our community. The dot point of the foreshadowed motion, I must express my dissatisfaction with the section of the motion that requires the Chief Executive Officer to prepare a policy in relation to Welcome to Country protocols under conditions. The big words there is under conditions. Whilst I agree this is intent and will happen, but to dictate how he should do, it is not what we're here for. Defining the circumstances, processes and cultural protocols is essential. It is wrong for Council to dedicate to the CEO the how instead of focusing on the what. Instructing the CEO on how to do his job limits the policy's creation. We are disregarding the input and perspectives of the broader community. How can we ensure that the policy will be inclusive and reflective of the diverse values and voices of our community, Madam Mayor, if it is not drafted without widespread consultation? This approach goes against the principles of openness, inclusiveness and participating in good governance. It limits the decisions making, the risk creating a policy that does not fully resonate the community sentiments or honour the intricate cultural traditions of the Noongar people. The Council should be emphasising our broader goals and values, allowing for community-informed process to take place rather than devolving into operational matters best left to the discretion of the administration. Our focus must be on unity, inclusiveness and respect for all voices. Lastly, dot point number 3, Directing the CEO to consult only with the Langford Aboriginal Association and the RAP Working Group is exclusionary. Is there such a word, exclusionary? Exclusionary practice that does not sit well with me, as I value openness, accountability and fair play. Why are we limiting the voices that can contribute to the development of this policy? Why do we want to divide rather than unify our community? Are we scared to hear diverse opinions? We should be embracing a community consultative approach, not narrowing our perspective to selective groups. The foreshadowed motion lacks the depth, inclusivity and visionary leadership we need. It pays lip service to cultural traditions and without engaging meaningful with them. It mandates...
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry, but we're...
Dan, which is the point of order?
7.11, we're talking about not involving the community now, but what we literally just heard was that we have the opportunity to take this to the community. We've heard from the Aboriginal community, and we're going to...
So you're going to go with which one?
Relevant, 7.11.
Relevance or factual?
Relevance.
Relevance.
Because we're closing a debate, and I thought we'd all had the same illuminating moment earlier.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hort. It has been stated in here that we will be going out for community consultation on this, so
that's good.
You need to reflect upon that.
I've thought that was on, just a clarification, I thought that was on the RAP. It wasn't actually a fee for service and acknowledgement of the country, is that right?
Part of the RAP is discussing those items, but not the fee for service. You are correct, that is not in there.
That's right, so that's what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. So shall I continue? I was on a roll, even though I got written down, I was on a roll. Look, I forget where I'm up to. Are we scared to hear diverse opinions? We should be embracing a community consultative approach, not narrowing a perspective to select groups. The foreshadowed motion lacks the depth, inclusivity and visionary leadership we need. It pays lip service to cultural traditions without engaging meaningful with them. It mandates a dictatorial approach to policy making, and it fosters division rather than unity within our community. I urge my fellow council members to see beyond the surface of this foreshadowed motion and recognise its fundamental flaws. Let us strive for a path that generally honours the Noongar people, engages our community in a sincere dialogue, and unites us in a shared commitment to fairness, equality and respect. I'm nearly finished, Madam Mayor. Let us give the CEO...
Councillor Dewhurst, your 5 minutes is up. Would you like to request an
I've
extension?
got literally a paragraph to go.
I'll allow that, thank you.
Thank you. Let us give the CEO and the executive team the opportunity to consult, imagine and engage in dialogue that includes all voices. Let's leave the how to them to focus on the collective dream for community that drives on inclusivity. Please support the motion and please wait for executives and the team's response. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. We'll now put that motion for the vote. So if you're in favour of the motion, please raise your hand now. That is not carried. Your motion has been lost. Thank you. We'll move back to the foreshadowed motion. Councillor Williamson. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I need a seconder
Yes, you do.
for the foreshadowed motion?
Can I get a seconder for Councillor Baynes to second that? Thank you, Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. Councillors, I'm really confused by a lot of what has been said tonight. I've heard that this motion isn't about allowances, it's not about the way we pay, but I'm really glad that councillors decided not to go down the path of an allowance. So we now have an option of, do we continue with the status quo where we pay a fee for service, or there really is no other option. So I'm asking you to support my motion that we do continue with the status quo, that a fee is set by the Noongar elders and we follow normal supplier protocols like we do with any other business, any other transaction. And that is in accordance with the South West Aboriginal Land and Sea Council. Part of their protocol is that you can negotiate that fee, but the fee is set by the elders. You're not there to try to undermine them and tell them they can only charge their cost. We do value them more than just what their cost of time is. They do have skills and intellectual property. And I think we've heard that the policy is part of the RAP, it's part of the process. So I think it's really important to be clear that the policy that will give effect to the continuation of a fee-for-service arrangement is documented in a policy as part of our RAP, and that we do consult with the Langford Aboriginal Association and the RAP working group, and it goes through Reconciliation Australia, it goes back to council, everybody gets input into it. But we need to follow that process through. And to address some of the concerns that Councillor Dewhurst raised with interfering with operations, setting policy is our job. That's what we're here to do as councillors. We give direction to the executive, to the CEO of what we want to see in the policy. We don't hand over an open page and say, draft me up, make a policy for me. That is supposed to reflect the community and our views. We're the community trusts us to be informing the executives about what we want to see in that policy. So I do not have any concern with my motion crossing over into operational areas. It's normal process for us to suggest what's in the policy, and then it works its way through with councillors being able to make comments, provide feedback, adjustments are made, and then before the policy can be adopted, it comes to council again. So I think I have no concerns. I sit comfortably with my foreshadowed motion, and I ask you to support that, because it's the only way to create unity is by treating people equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Your seconder, did you have anything to talk on this? Thank you.
I just want to thank Councillor Williamson for putting forward the foreshadowed motion. I think that it's really well written. I don't agree with placing a cap or an allowance on what we think an elder's wisdom, culture and knowledge is worth, and I think that it definitely needs more investigation, and I think that we can come up with a really good policy to work forward and support everyone in our community.
Councillor Baines, I just have a quick question, sorry. Councillor Williamson, I note that you changed your foreshadowed motion to include pretty much most of what you've got on potentially another foreshadowed motion. So you're bringing across A, B, C, D, E and point 2 as point 3 on this one. Is that correct?
Yes, I am, because...
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page of what is actually being discussed here, so that...
Yes, to have the policy, because in the debate it was highlighted that Councillor Dewhurst thought his was a policy. So I'm in agreement. The policy needs to be there. The RAP requires a policy. It makes sense to deal with that now, to give the CEO that option.
Thank you. That was just my question. Councillor Abetz, did you have a question? Sorry, you need to stand up, Councillor Abetz.
Is this the sheet? Is there more to it than just that point 1?
Yes.
Because there's one motion.
I'll answer that for you, Councillor Abetz. So you've got 2 motions in front of you.
Yeah, I've got that.
What the motion changed to is this motion here, that's the 14.2, all of the points on that to be added to this motion.
Oh, okay.
And point 2 on that other motion to be added as point 3.
Yep.
Yeah?
Further question?
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm just trying to get my head around what these... Seeing Councillor Dewhurst's motion was defeated,
yep.
And if nothing further happened now, we would continue to do the welcome to countries as we have by going to market, etc. So we basically, the status quo would continue. So the foreshadowed motion, point 1 there, is basically, we keep doing what we're doing. So the extra bit would be this bit, the dot points about developing a policy. So my question is that not going to be covered by the reconciliation plan?
Thank you, Councillor Abetz. I believe it is. I'll ask the Director to discuss that. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, again, it's not set in concrete. The reconciliation plan will talk about the development of protocols for welcome to country and acknowledgement of country. How we go about that, I suppose, is, could be a policy, could be a protocol. So, yeah, I mean, this amendment doesn't undermine, if you like, the what we want to do with the RAP. It aligns with what we want to do with the RAP. I know, sorry if that's not very clear, but we...
Have a further question on that?
So basically, just make sure I'm getting it right. The dot points here refer to acknowledgement of country. So this would simply then become like change that to welcome to country for this one. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Councillor Dewhurst, then Deputy Mayor Hort. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Mayor. Look, firstly, I'd like to thank councillors for having this very difficult discussion on that, and certainly allow me to raise it, and it was being debated well. But as in regards to the foreshadowed motion, I'll support the foreshadowed motion. It's certainly something that I'd like to achieve. But I do have some concerns in regards to being a little bit narrow, and it's going to have a very defined result. The narrowness is 0.2 or 0.3 under 14.2, where it says the council requests the Chief Executive Officer to consult the Langford Aboriginal Association and the RAP Working Group. There are people out there who don't belong to the the Langford Aboriginal Association, and I spoke to one earlier this evening, and he was quite upset. The fact is that why won't he be discussed and spoken to in regards to it? So I just want to sort of throw something out there. I'll support the motion as it is where it comes through, but I'm actually asking is maybe we don't actually need this, or reword the motion to say to direct the CEO to include these comments into the RAP. And the reason I say that is to form the policy. The reason I say that is I particularly don't want to give the CEO any more work than he has to do. So what I'm asking is that perhaps Councillor Williamson would consider looking at this and just saying, look, somehow rewording it, using magic, to say that, yep, we agree with this. So I'm not happy with number 3, but I'm happy to support that. So I'd like to be more inclusive. But
are you proposing an amendment to this? Because Councillor Williamson can't just change this ad hoc.
Of course, yeah.
Because she's already spoken to it and she wouldn't have the opportunity to speak to it again.
Yeah, okay. The amendment, you're going to have to help me to word the amendment, but
okay.
The amendment would be on the baselines of that, as per the proposed foreshadowed motion, be accepted and ask the CEO to place these conditions in the within the RAP working committee. And the reason is that not to have him to look at this now while they're doing the RAP. Let's do it all together, and the policy can come out of it then. Did you get that? Did you get that?
Give us a minute, thank you. Councillor, you can't.
Madam Mayor, point of order. The RAP working group includes people that aren't in LAA. I thought we'd established that already.
No, it doesn't. The RAP working group is made up from the city staff, but we will, as part of the RAP, be developing an Aboriginal advisory group that will include people that are not just from LAA, but from the wider community.
But does that address... I'm just trying to help Councillor Dewhurst here. Does that
okay.
address
We'll just deal with Councillor Dewhurst's amendment first, but thank you for the question in the meanwhile. Go ahead, Councillor Dewhurst.
I can clarify his concern. My concern is that we're only saying we're negotiating with LAA, which I knew we were under the RAP, but I'm sure after tonight's discussions, the Director and the CEO will be engaging with the further community, Aboriginal community out there as well. So thank you.
So you do still want the amendment? Or you don't
yes,
want
I do.
You do
yes,
still want
yes,
the amendment?
I do.
Okay. Just give us a second while we work out the amendment for Councillor Dewhurst. Councillor Williamson, in the meanwhile, if you've got a question or you wouldn't advise speaking to the debate because we've got an amendment underway here. So it's probably maybe...
I'm happy to change the wording on my motion to be that council requests the CEO to include consultation with the Langford Aboriginal Association, the RAP working group and the RAP advisory group. And that covers everything Councillor Dewhurst has raised.
Bearing in mind you won't be able to speak to that again at the start, but is your seconder happy with that? Okay, then we'll include that the RAP advisory committee will be included in that as well. You still need an amendment? Yep.
So what is his amendment?
Yeah,
I don't know what the amendment is. Yeah.
Councillor Williamson want an actual policy, but I will ask the question. Director Bradbrook has suggested that you may choose to or not. Change your words to that the council requests the Chief Executive Officer ensures that the RAP includes acknowledgement to country protocols. So it takes out your word about policy. Is that a fundamental change to your foreshadowed motion? Maybe.
The welcome to country?
These, well, yeah, okay.
The problem is it's under acknowledgement to country, but it's being done as welcome to country.
Yeah, I'm looking at this different RAP here.
Yeah.
This is different.
Yeah.
I'm going to show Councillor Dewhurst as well.
Yep.
Councillor, you're happy with that? Change
So-
your words?
Do you want me to read?
I'll have you
that
read out what
because
you'd like your
everyone-
change to be, and Councillor Dewhurst, you can agree with this change or not. It's up to you. Go ahead.
Okay, so that council requests the CEO to ensure the RAP includes in relation to the welcome to country protocols that A, defines the circumstances in which a welcome to country occurs at city functions and events, the process the city will follow to engage and make payment to the elder for cultural services. C, outlines cultural protocols to be observed and followed in accordance with Noongar protocols developed by the South West Aboriginal Land and Sea Council, being the native title representative body of the Noongar people. D, deals with any other issues the CEO considers necessary. And 3, that council requests the CEO to include consultation with Langford Aboriginal Association, RAP Working Group and the RAP Advisory Group.
Committee in the development of the protocols?
Yes.
Councillor Baynes, are you happy as the seconder for those words to be changed? Thank you. Councillor Dewhurst, are you happy with that?
Yes, very happy, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Now, where are we up to? Councillor Deputy Mayor Hort, if you'd like to speak to this foreshadowed motion, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I initially was not in support of this because I thought, well, we've already got the process in place. It's all happening. It's all working really well. What does this add? So thanks to Councillor Dewhurst for the changes, because that's probably where I was going to go as well, not as perfect as yours. And thank you for Councillor Williamson for putting this together. I think the two marrying together works really nicely. So I didn't think anything needed to come from all this, Madam Mayor, because I thought we had a process in place. But if it helps the RAP process and it helps define some of that work that occurs in the RAP, then better we do that now while that process is occurring than when it comes to council later on. So I guess I'm in support of this, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Sorry, I'm just so used to Councillor Dewhurst speaking tonight. Thank you. I'm going to do at least once a meeting. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hort. And likewise, I too was not going to support the foreshadowed motion because I was happy to support the initial one. And with that coming in, it did overlay with what we were doing with the RAP. So now that these changes have been made, thank you to all parties concerned. I'm happy to support the foreshadowed motion. Is there any further debate or questions on the foreshadowed motion? Councillors, if you please cast your vote on the foreshadowed motion. Thank you. That has been carried. We'll now move on to item number 14.2, acknowledgement of country. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Good is leaving the room for leaving the room. Councillor Dewhurst, you're happy to move this motion. Thank you. Speak to your motion.
Yeah,
You want to second
where's Councillor Good going? Do you want me to read the motion? It's been in the agenda, everyone knows what it is, so perhaps I'll just go on to my
For you, if there's a seconder for this acknowledgement, 14.2 acknowledgement of country, can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Betts is happy to second that. Thank you, Councillor Betts. Councillor Julius,
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
you.
So, acknowledgements to country. To be truly inclusive within this community, I ask we explore that we recognise the contributions of all who have built this land, Aboriginal and all others. The very people who have sacrificed, and these others include the very people who have sacrificed, including many sacrifices, including Aboriginal people, their lives for us to live in the land that is free and of fair play, and that has given us opportunity to speak freely. Our nation's history is a tapestry woven of diverse threads, and equitable acknowledgement must include all who have played a part. So what has led us to this point? Why has something so integral to our nation's dialogue become a source of division and resentment? The answer lies in the manipulation of these ceremonies by activists and bureaucratic classes. They perpetuate a victimhood mindset, leading to further divisions and an endless pursuit of reconciliation that seems continuously out of reach. The time has come for us to reflect on what these ceremonies mean to us as Australians. I believe we must respect and honour our shared history without losing sight of the present and future. We must strive for an Australia where we all are welcome, where cultural practices are preserved without commercialisation, and where unity is prioritised over division. I urge you to think critically about these practices and what they mean to you and to the community. We all have the right to call this country home. Let's embrace our shared history, knowledge and our differences, and move forward as one. The motion I'm presenting has not only been meticulously crafted, also deeply infused with the wisdom and guidance of the wider community. These motions are the result of inclusive, compassionate dialogue that I've carried out with both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people, bringing together the shared values and common goals of our diverse city. This motion seeks to foster an environment of understanding, respect and unity between the diverse cultures that make up our community. It is a call to recognise not only the rich heritage, traditions and contributions of the Aboriginal peoples, but that of our ancestors, their descendants, our teachers, our trades, from all those who live here and seek a commitment to work together for a future that celebrates our shared identity as a community. This motion is not just words on paper, they are living, breathing embodiments of the respect and cooperation that we have fostered among the various stakeholders within our land. Councillors, your support for this motion is not merely endorsement of policy, it's an affirmation of a shared commitment to a more inclusive, understanding and compassionate community. It's a vote for the values that define us and the future we wish to see for ourselves and for generations to come. Now we arrive at a pivotal juncture in our community's path forward, and point I'd like to refer to as where to from here. I don't think I have to go into this part. So the decision tonight supporting the motions are not merely administrative tasks or short-term fixes. They're about setting a strategic vision for the future of our city, aligns our resources and our values to craft a place that we all would be proud to call home. As equals, and that's all I'm asking for, councillors, is that we all are equals in the land of fair play. I ask you to join with the many voices of our community in taking these significant steps towards a more united, respectful and sustainable future. Together, let us make history. Together, let us build a legacy of unity, a city with a beacon of progress and innovation. That's all I'm asking, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, through you to the CEO, should this motion be accepted? What to from here?
Thank you, Mr CEO.
Madam Mayor, obviously there's some questions in there that that would require further policy work, and you know, for instance, point C, which talks about who are acknowledged and with the word etc. So we'd need to do that.
At this point in time, I'd like to move a procedural motion that I move that the motion be deferred for the following reasons. As council is aware, and as has been discussed, the city staff are quite advanced in the development of the City Reconciliation Action Plan, known as a RAP, and information and outcomes pertaining to this motion can be captured in the RAP. And as also discussed in the previous item, the draft of the RAP will be widely consulted on by the councillors the stakeholders, and they'll obviously have an opportunity to have input into the RAP. And it wouldn't be appropriate to deal with such a significant item outside of the development of a RAP and prior to the election in October. Councillors, I ask that you defer this item until the RAP has been presented. Can I get a seconder, please? Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Williamson to second that. Councillors, if you please cast your vote. Okay, my motion has been lost. Thank you. Carry on. That has been lost. Thank you. Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Second, I'd like to speak to it. Basically what the motion does as I read it is that point A rather, conducting acknowledgements of country at events be at the discretion of the Mayor and at formal welcomes to country only. Actually, that formal welcomes to countries shouldn't really be in there because that's with the previous motion, but that the acknowledgements of country be at the discretion of the Mayor. I think I'm comfortable with that. The other is that at any city meeting or event, only one acknowledgement of country is provided by an elected member of the city or officer, and that subsequent elected members or officers who speak don't repeat that. And basically, I know what it was like when I was a Member of Parliament. You'd go to some function somewhere and you had various speakers, and there were perhaps half a dozen or more dignitaries there, and every speaker rattles off all the list of all the dignitaries, and we've got to go through this whole long list again. And what happened more and more as time went on was that the first speaker or the MC would acknowledge all the dignitaries present, and every speaker who got up after that did not go through that list of things again, because that's just so repetitive, and in a sense it takes away from the dignity of actually mentioning the dignitaries that are there. In the same way, I believe that an acknowledgement of country, it almost becomes a trite formality. If every speaker who gets up says it, it really loses its meaning, so I'm very supportive of that. And Section C, acknowledgement should include acknowledgements of the settlers and their descendants, people from other nations, etc. When we have our citizenship ceremonies, which is also where we do the acknowledgement of country, or we often have some of us now have a welcome to country, but I think the contribution that, for example, the Sikhs have made, we've got quite a significant Sikh community at least in Cannyvale, part of some of who live within the city of Gosnells. We've got the Sikh temple within the city of Gosnells. The Sikhs have been here for 180 years or whatever it is, have made a very significant contribution to the development of Australia, and sometimes to actually have other groups acknowledged for their contribution to the development and the culture of our country, I think would be a really positive thing. So I'm comfortable with that. Just, I think and that formal welcomes to country, I think that needs to be deleted because that shouldn't actually be in there. Thank you. With the approval of the mover.
Proposing an amendment, or
it's just under Section A, and that formal welcomes to country, seeing that the welcomes to country has been referred to that's dealt with the previous motion, that shouldn't be in there in my view, but if...
No, this is a different issue. This is talking about where it's conducted, not about what's being paid for it. Councillor
I'm happy to look at it. That doesn't matter. It's just I thought that we dealt with that. That's now going to be a separate policy.
I'll ask Councillor Dewhurst if he wants to change.
I'm comfortable with it being there. I just thought perhaps it was redundant, but it doesn't make any difference really. It leaves the discretion of the Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Patterson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to be clear, the procedural motion I've knocked back because obviously this discussion has already, someone mysterious has alerted the news and caused a lot of controversy and a lot of concern amongst community, and I think it's would be poor of us to not at least raise an objection, because I don't want to be attached to any article that says City of Gosnells believes, when I absolutely don't. I believe most of my colleagues here don't, and I know my community doesn't. This is a dangerous and bigoted stance to take, especially at a time when there is so much proactive and positive action happening towards reconciliation. I am horrified that this is before us for consideration, to acknowledge the settlers. An acknowledgement of country is an important and simple gesture to acknowledge that this land, whilst it is our home, and I was born here, was never ceded. It was never ours. This land was forcibly acquired as a result of a war, and the traditional owners and custodians of this land since have been systemically demolished, their culture eroded, and their well-being and autonomy obliterated. When I say an acknowledgement of country, and you have alluded in your motion, Councillor Dewhurst, that it's empty and tokenistic. When I say an acknowledgement of country, which I do at every meeting I chair, it is never tokenistic, ever. I mean it, it is not empty. To say that acknowledgements should acknowledge settlers to this land is the most offensive and preposterous thing I have ever heard. Every day that we exist as a white person in Australia, we are acknowledged. We are given unfair privilege and precedence over everybody else here. If you need evidence of that, have a look around this room, because there's not a lot of diversity here, and there isn't a lot of diversity at the top of any room. To acknowledge as country, to have an acknowledgement of country sets a tone for a meeting, and whilst it doesn't actively change reconciliation, it is the bare minimum. I believe that any speaker at any event or meeting at any level wishes to do an acknowledgement of country, they should be entitled to. It is the bare minimum. I believe that we should have compassion and goodwill for each other and our motivations. So if someone pays an acknowledgement, we should believe it to be genuine and well-intended, not tokenistic. That is the bare minimum. I will not support this motion as it stands, as I vehemently disagree that acknowledgements should incorporate non-Aboriginal people of any kind. It is 15 seconds. I do not agree that people that wish to acknowledge the sovereignty of this land should be disallowed only in the city of Gosnells. That means our elected members, as Councillor Abetz alluded to, will go to every other city and be free to say what they want until they get to the city of Gosnells, where you're not allowed here. Totally unacceptable. This entire motion is politically motivated and at the detriment of reconciliation. This has pushed down an already diminished community to try to get on the news or create a problem or create a controversy, and I am absolutely furious. And already, in your opening statement, Councillor Dewhurst, to allude to a victim mindset, I'd probably have a victim mindset too, to be honest. I'd probably have a victim mindset and feel traumatised too. This motion was not supported by the Aboriginal community. I would challenge any members of the Aboriginal community who are sitting in the city of Gosnells and saying, you know what, I wish they acknowledged settlers in the acknowledgement of country, to give me a call and I'll apologise.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Councillor McDonald, and you can ask a question after Councillor McDonald speaks. Thank you, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. I wasn't sure you'd seen my hand. It's for a while, but
sorry.
Thank you very much. No, that's okay. Yeah, look, I've listened to all of this conversation and debate, and I must be a little bit slow off the mark. I didn't anticipate any of this discussion whatsoever. I haven't had the benefit of materials to read beyond what's in the agenda, and I've just taken what's in the agenda literally, so I'll just talk about what I've read. So part A of the motion, extending a discretion to the Mayor when conducting acknowledgements of country at city events, is demonstrably already in place. Since first reading this motion, I was interested to learn if there was any background on council record in relation to the matters raised. I sought and received confirmation from council staff that there is no record in any council business of any previous motions or policy with respect to acknowledgements of country. Acknowledgements of country have historically been the prerogative of the Mayor, presumably in consultation with local Indigenous elders. In relation to Part B, I don't believe that as a council we have any authority to direct elected members or staff to not make that acknowledgement. And I'm not confident using a council motion is the best way to try and drive the issue. As we're all aware, speakers external to council who acknowledge country at city events after the initial acknowledgement has been made happens all the time, and a council motion discouraging is not binding on them, nor should it be. If there's an objection to any part of a speech made by an internal speaker, it's the prerogative of the Mayor to deal with it, as she has done in the recent past. In relation to Part C of the motion, should the Mayor wish to tailor any public acknowledgements, whether to Indigenous, settlers or migrants for any particular occasion, in my view, that is and remains the prerogative of the Mayor. So just to summarise some of these points, Part A of the motion reads, conducting acknowledgements of country at city events be at the discretion of the Mayor, and that formal welcomes to country only be conducted at significant city events as determined by the Mayor. If it's accepted that in practice the Mayor already exercises this discretion and makes those determinations, then Parts B and C become redundant, as their intent is captured by Part A. Further, as far as I'm aware, even if passed, the motion does not have any authority binding anyone to say or not to say anything. Making rules that dictate about what people can and can't say, when they should say it and how many times they can say it is, in my view, too prescriptive and bordering on authoritarian. I don't believe we need or ought to have a policy that governs speech, and I would prefer that matters be left with the prerogative of the Mayor, and I'm unable to support this motion for these reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Dewhurst, you had a question?
Councillor Patterson referred to a war. What war are we talking about? I just said there's a war going on.
Councillor Patterson.
The invasion that led to the occupation of this country, Councillor Dewhurst.
Councillor Good, thank you. Get your hand up to speak, yeah? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lyons. Because I was... Is everything okay?
Sorry, Councillor McDonald, have you turned your mic off now? I thought we had rats in the roof.
Apologies.
Yep, not a problem. I just want to clarify something. It may have happened when I left the chamber, but I just want to double check. On the second page, under the heading of councillor comment, the very first sentence, the beginning of the second sentence, they consequently convey a sense, it says if tokenism, I'm assuming it should be of tokenism. Has that been corrected? Okay, thank you, as long as I know it's covered. Now, what I actually want to say is that, first of all, I want to thank Councillor Dewhurst for bringing this motion, courage and strength to speak out. I'm just very supportive of that, and I thank him for having a go at that. With regards to this motion, under A, the discretion of the Mayor. Now, for acknowledgement of country and welcomes to country, I could argue against this, as the Mayor is obviously first amongst equals, but Council could decide this. However, I'm actually in support of it because in this instance, I accept the proposal, and the Mayor, you could actually acknowledge anyone you like. You have the freedom of speech to, for example, for those who listen to a lot of public speeches, which I do, it's not uncommon for someone to say, I welcome the veterans in the community or those who've served in the armed forces. You could make any complimentary thing you like. So I have no problem with that. So the discretion of the Mayor, yes, but obviously, for example, if you started making comments about acknowledging something or someone, any one of us could privately say to you, look, we don't like that or whatever, and you would take feedback because you're representing the council, and the council people can make comments. But otherwise, I don't want to curtail your freedom of speech to acknowledge whoever's in the audience. It could be someone turning 100 years old for all I know, and you want to say happy birthday to them. Having said that, B and C. Look, I'm actually supportive of these, and I get the intent. I get the intent, and I do support them. And what I'm getting at there is the fact that basically the intent is to make sure that not 10 people in a row actually say the same thing over and over again. And one of the comments here was that simply it should be encouraged. It's not dictating it. It doesn't say it in stone. The actual words are just to be encouraged. So you would simply make that point. C, Again, same thing about settlers and their descendants. I made the point about thanking people from the armed forces if you wanted to, or Vietnam veterans, or whoever you like. So the intent I actually get them supportive. On that note, I do want to make a couple of comments too, and they are, I'll just quote a couple of things. Welcome to country ceremonies. I'm actually going to quote a very well-known politician in this country, not of the political persuasion that I normally am, and I'm just going to be making a quote. There's no problem with acknowledging our history, and in the right context and spirit, there is a place for a more formal welcome ceremony. But to have these acknowledgements infiltrating everywhere from schools to workplaces to footy matches to churches is going too far. I don't need to keep being recognised for the colour of my skin. I want to be treated as a full human person, just as anyone else. Aboriginal people are human beings with dignity and potential. It's divisive and patronising to treat us differently like this. At the same time, we can never be reconciled as a country as long as we keep telling non-Indigenous Australians that it is not their country, that they need to be welcomed because they're visitors or invaders. It's wrong and it's divisive. We all share this country together, and whether you became Australian 60,000 years ago, 60 years ago, 6 years ago, or 6 minutes ago, we're all Australian and this is our home. That's why we need to rethink these welcomes, because you and I are already welcome here. Centre, Jacinta, Empajimpa, Price. That's it.
I'll jump. Oh, you're going to jump in, Deputy Mayor? I'll jump in. Okay, entering the debate, councillors. I won't be voting in favour of this motion, surprise. I guess basically the first one is not a real issue because conducting acknowledgements of country is at the Mayor of the Day's discretion, and I have done that where appropriate and where I haven't done that on all occasions, but where I felt it was appropriate to do that, I have done that, and that is majority of occasions, I might add. Point B, we can't be dictating to other people what they want to acknowledge and what they don't want to acknowledge. This is Australia, as we all know, and that includes having the freedom of speech, religion and worship, as I speak about all the time in my citizenship ceremony address, and I wanted to keep that freedom going. And like I get that Councillor Dewhurst is saying that sometimes it does look as though people are just rattling it off their tongue, but we can't know what that person's feeling when they're saying the acknowledgement. That's up to them to put to the audience, and we certainly wouldn't want to limit them onto when and where they do say an acknowledgement, especially for fellow councillors or other visiting people to our city or the like. Thirdly, acknowledgements should include acknowledgements of settlers and their descendants as well. As a descendant of the original settlers here in Western Australia, coming out in 1829 and settling in Hester Park, just down the road here, the Spencers, I can tell you that I do not feel comfortable acknowledging what my ancestors did. I acknowledge that they worked hard and they came out here to a country that they didn't know what they were coming to, and when they got here it was very different to what they thought it was going to be, and I don't think they ever envisioned what was going to happen in 2023, because I quoted this at the annual dinner in that I recited a letter from my ancestor, my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Mr Thomas Gallop, where he warned his sons, the 3 sons that came out, the Gallop sons, that be wary of the people that are here and don't forget that you are on their land. That was acknowledged from the English back in 1829. They acknowledged that this was Aboriginal land, and somewhere along the line that's got lost in translation. So I would not be comfortable acknowledging settlers and their descendants, as the Mayor of the Day. So this is why I can't support this motion. Thank you, councillors. Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, I'm a simple man, and you've heard my point before. I don't think we can have these conversations without the Aboriginal elders in the room. You know, if they think settlers are appropriate, you know, that's their prerogative. But ultimately, the discussion has to happen with them. And it sounds to me like that's happening in the Reconciliation Action Plan, and I'm getting lots of nods. So I feel like this is being captured already. I don't think anyone's being forced to say welcome to countries that I'm aware of. So we don't have any policy that says we have to say welcome to
But
country.
we're discussing acknowledgement of country.
Acknowledgement of country, sorry. Yeah, we don't force anyone to acknowledge country, sorry, I should have said, that I'm aware of. And certainly if it's in speeches that I've delivered, I've never felt that I've had to do it. I mean, I do, but it doesn't feel forced. So ultimately then the question becomes, the meaning behind whether that person is putting something behind the acknowledgement of country that they're saying in their speech or whatever it might be, and that becomes a very personal thing and something I don't think we can put into policy or direct the city to do. So I'm just not sure what this changes, even if it gets up here today, like the same question. It sounds like it's already happening in the RAP. We're consulting with the right people. And I think it is worth having on the record that we have all received an email from LAA today, and I know Councillor Dewhurst has mentioned it already, but this was the bit that really was very pivotal for me, and so I'm going to share just a sentence. LAA does not support the proposed notice of motions by Councillor Glenn Dewhurst as they stand. Now, if our local community had indeed said this is the case, and I'm not saying that's not the case, that there may be some misunderstanding between Councillor Dewhurst and LAA, then that would be a very different conversation for me. And I think whatever comes out of the RAP is going to be really important to me on a personal level as to what do the local Aboriginal elders suggest we do when it comes to welcome and acknowledgement of country, in this case, acknowledgement of country. So I'm not for this, Madam Mayor, particularly for that last note around the email from LAA.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hort. Any further debate? Councillor Zhang, thank you.
I think as the only one who is the non-white people sitting here, I feel like I have to say something. Personally, I think I will appreciate if anyone respect my traditional culture in the appropriate way, not in wrong way. So for me, I feel tonight it is very helpful for myself to learn all this traditional culture about Aboriginal people, because actually I did some research before I came to today's meeting. So, and all this debate helped me to understand all these issues better. But for me, I feel like as the council, when we make the decision, we need to think about from the policy and the protocol level, rather than should we just think about like A, B, C, each point. That's why for me, if we talk about like the point A, point B, or point C, if I just take like point C as an example, as Deputy Mayor Hort say, I don't think there is any guideline to guide us how many times acknowledgement of country should be conducted in any meeting. So if that's the case, why we put the restriction in terms of how many times we should conduct? And also, are we able to control anyone who come to our event, telling them, because I know it's encouraged, but when I read the second page, it seems like the city should also make it clear to other speakers that only one acknowledgement is given, and the first person who stands make that position clear. So for me, feel like we're telling the guest speaker, if you come here, you only can either MC or Madam Mayor did that, and nobody else can do that. So for me, I think when we go up to that level, we need to be very careful. And also, I feel like it's quite peaceful because our rep is actually including all this point, and that will go back to the community for the further consultation. If that's the case, so I do think, all these points already being covered and considered by the council. So that's the point I want to make for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zhang. Any further debate or questions? Councillor Williamson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to thank Councillor Zhang for giving another perspective on the motion and how it reads and the way the words actually are interpreted. I know there's been some talk around that we can't enforce things, but it's really clear in that commentary by Councillor Dewhurst that the expectation of this is that the city makes it clear to speakers that they can't have their freedom of speech here when they come to the City of Gosnells. So I think I definitely won't be supporting this motion, and I'm very confident that our RAP will follow Noongar protocols, and it will be respectful, and that it will involve consultation. So I'm happy to not support this and leave it for the RAP to work its magic and be able to bring everything together to create unity and reconciliation in a respectful way. Thank you.
Councillor Williamson, any further debate or questions? A question? Thank you, Councillor Betts. Oops, water.
Nearly tipped my water over. Just a question. The commentary that Councillor Dewhurst provided with the motion, that does not form part of the decision, or does it? Because the motion, the point B reads encouraged, so that would be the formal decision. The fact that Councillor Dewhurst says would yeah, that's right. But the additional commentary has no bearing whatsoever on what ends up happening. It's only the words of the motion that we actually agree to. So it's purely encourage. It's not that we say to someone who comes to
Sorry, is that a question or debate? Coming into a bit of debate here?
I just want to make sure that we're clear, that I want clarity on that. That there's
okay,
no,
the ABC are what the proposed motion is.
And that the commentary has no bearing whatsoever.
That's correct.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Questions or debate on this item?
I'm not closing.
Well, actually, if there is no further questions or debate, you will be closing, Councillor Dewhurst, but you can ask the question.
I've just got a question.
And then that opens the floor again for anyone else that might want to ask a question, that's all. So.
That's right. No, I just want clarification myself. The ABC, I understand that's the motion, that's what we're looking at today, and it's very clear there. It says that other speakers should be encouraged to follow the cities. It says encouraged in there, as Councillor Betts has said, so it's not actually what Councillor Williamson said, that we're saying that they can't do it. We're saying we're encouraged not to do it. Point of order, maybe, or just clarification, whatever.
Is in there, you're correct. So are there any further questions? Otherwise you can... Councillor Patterson, thank you. Question?
Yes, thank you. For you, Madam Mayor. As the Mayor, who would be encouraging our guests, how do you think you would say to a visitor to our city, when you do your acknowledgement of country, we really strongly encourage you to acknowledge the settlers and invaders and all sorts of other people. How do you think you'd go about doing that, Madam Mayor?
That wouldn't be something I would be comfortable doing. Point of clarification is he's talking about B, and I wouldn't even be comfortable telling someone that they can't perform an acknowledgement to country either, as the Mayor of the day. Councillor Dewhurst, like to close?
Yep, I'll close, no problems at all.
Thank you.
Was there a foreshadowed motion? Did I miss anything? No, okay.
Nope.
So, Madam Mayor, having listened attentively to the voices of dissent and the concerns raised against the motions presented tonight, I want to begin by extending my gratitude to all who have contributed to the important discussion. Even in the disagreement, our democracy thrives on diversity of thought and sincere value and perspective shared. It is apparent that the issues we grapple with tonight stir deep emotions and difference in opinion. However, I must reiterate the core principles that undermine this motion. We are striving to strike balance where respect for tradition meets the ever-changing dynamics of our society. It is about recognising the rich tapestry of a nation's history while also acknowledging the unsettling commercialisation that's encroached upon sacred cultural practices. It's not about dividing but uniting, not about negating but including. It's not about imposing but understanding, Madam Mayor. The concerns raised are valid and merit careful consideration, but there must be weighed against the broader picture of what we aspire to be as a community and as a community. This is a journey towards an Australia and community that honours its rich cultural heritage without diluting or commodifying it, as an Australia that seeks to include rather than to exclude. I understand that this motion may not align with everyone's viewpoints. However, the intention is not to marginalise or overlook any section of the society. Rather, it is to find common ground where all Australians can feel recognised, respected and included as Australians. For those who disagree, I hear you. I appreciate your candour. However, I still firmly believe in the essence of this motion, and I also ask you to consider that is not the end, but is a beginning of dialogue, a conversation that must continue if we are to grow together as a community. I invite all present to continue engaging with the issues, to seek understanding, to question and to challenge, but most importantly, to work together even in our differences to shape Australia that truly embodies fairness, respect and unity. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. If councillors could please cast their vote on the motion, thank you. If you're in support of it, put your hand up. If you're not, don't. 1, 2, 3 in support of the motion. That motion has been lost. Thank you, councillors. There is no urgent business. Item 16, no confidential matters. It is now 9:46 and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you, councillors, staff and to the ladies and gentlemen in the gallery who've stayed to the end. Thank you very much.